crazy. Yeah, you got me in the mood, in the mood. Started off a challenge, 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 started off a challenge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Feedback and Friends. I have just literally run to get home on time. It's been a crazy day. My door isn't even open. I just noticed that. I'm gonna run around like a chicken and deal with some stuff for the first bit of this stream. Fortunately, the good news for those of you who have been watching, I've not seen any cockroaches in like 5 days. This is amazing. And also for those of you watching, I know in the US, it's like a big deal when you have cockroaches. In Valencia, Spain, it's just normal. They just come out in the summer and they're really big. And if you want to see my reaction to them, there is a clip on our Twitch about the big cockroach. But I digress. I want to introduce, as always, the lovely Nathaniel Wyvern on the left. And our guest, Stasis Stigma. If you could just give everybody a little quick thing about yourself and just tell us a little bit about you.
I make music. Yeah, so I'm Stasis Stigma. I love EDM stuff. Been producing for about 5 years, but took it more seriously the last couple of years. Put out an album last year, and a couple singles here and there. And yeah, I love this community too. It's a great community. If you're just now dialing in, this is a great place to be getting better and to collaborate with other people. So
we love you. We love the whole community. It's so nice to be here with everyone. It's so nice to see the same people coming back week after week. Nathaniel and I have been doing this for ages, and so we love having y'all on the stream. So Stasis is somebody we met through the stream, and it can be you. So Nathaniel, before we get started, why don't you tell them a little bit about what is coming up in a couple weeks? It's pretty exciting.
So on July 6th, that's a Wednesday, in Bristol, ILBC TV is collaborating with EMOM. They're a DIY performance kind of fun group, effectively. The Lost Horizons is the venue. It's like a former warehouse building, I'm pretty sure. Looks kind of cool. And there's going to be performance showcases from Matt Black, from a Cold Cut, Freer, Gramsci, Stirs, Isha herself. You can't go without you, obviously. And the most importantly, we're getting competitors. This is kind of the whole project for ILBC here. Getting people to push their own performance boundaries, combining electronic and sort of more active hybrid electronic performance things. And they're going to be facing off like the old DMC championships with a timer and a couple of different styles of competitive thing. It's
gonna be crazy. I mean, essentially, if the DMCs are still going on. They're really great beat battles between turntablists, but we wanted to create something with live electronic performers. So we have contestants, which will be announced very, very soon. I'm just kind of confirming them right now, and they're going to be doing routines. And we have a panel of judges, and you will be able to vote as well. And this is kind of top secret right now, so only those of you watching the stream will know this. But we are planning to integrate live visuals from Volta with audience reactivity. So that means that it's either we haven't got the details yet, but like when you vote for somebody or when you type certain things in the chat, while you watch us at Lost Horizon, you will be able to affect the visual content, which I think is super cool. We are going to be doing like all kinds of wacky things. It's going to be streamed here. So if you're not in Bristol, don't worry, you can watch it. If you are in Bristol, please, 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 please come. We would love to meet you. And we're going to have a Jam Pro workshop with Matt Black himself. He's going to give away some licenses. We're going to be like jamming out. It's going to be really, really wicked. So please come. If not, please tune in. It would really help to support us. We are doing live events in New York in August at the She Knows Tech Summit. We're also doing a virtual round. We're going to have some really cool guests such as Dub Effects and Underbelly from You Suck at Producing. And then the final round is going to be in Barcelona. So it's going to be absolutely wild. And I just really would love all of you to be here. It's been super hard work. So as always, something new that only happened last week is that we have subscriptions on Twitch. I finally got off my butt and completed the affiliate paperwork. For now, I'm going to say we're still building up our benefits. I did upload a couple of emojis. We're working on a couple more. But obviously, if you subscribe, you will get the same privileges as deluxe feedback, which is like $5 and skipping the queue. So if you were going to donate anyways, you can also subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, you can still donate and jump queue just like anything else. But we are going to get going with, I believe our first is Bako Bibizo. Nathaniel, is that correct? That's what I saw first in the queue, or am I wrong?
And they were the second, but for some reason, Mux, if you're watching, your link isn't working for some reason. So it is, we're going to have to skip you for the second and go to Bako
Bibizo. I know,
Sorry.
it's hard to say. So what's up, Aiden? What is up? Yes, please. What is up, Grades, Jaskabo, Dan Mac, everybody? Love to see you. Did Bako Bibizo ask for any specific feedback?
Previously had this track on here, but I accidentally printed it in mono. Since then, I have done a fair bit of work to it. So, okay, we'll guess new, improved, properly.
Now in stereo.
Now in stereo.
Some very kind of tropical-esque party time stuff from Baco Lubizo. I'm going to let our guest weigh in first. What did you think of that, Stasis?
Well, first of all, I loved it. I was bouncing the whole time. Very interesting right from the beginning, so I liked that a lot. The couple of notes I thought of were there's a synth like pluck or pad at the beginning, like a pluck pad, a plaid. But I felt like that could have been layered a little bit more. It was kind of like this really tonal, very abrupt sound, and it didn't feel quite in the mix. The vocal, I really liked the processing on it. I saw that in the comments a lot. There was a lot of good processing on the vocal. I would just work on spatially making it fit more in the mix with some reverb that matches the reverb that you're using on the instrumentation that you have. And then the final note I have is there was like a percussion. It sounded like you were trying to go for a build, but it was a little bit dragged on. The pattern that you had, like it was kind of like this buildy pattern, but it went on for quite a while. I would add some variation there, or make it a shorter length of time that you're playing it. But good song.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with liking the vocal and stuff. The one thing that I wasn't crazy about were like some of there's a sound that's kind of steel drummy, which is what made me think tropical, and it kind of goes into these arps, and I felt like some of those melodies didn't exactly work. Like there were times where they sounded a little bit random, like almost like you made them with a randomizer. Like they were just kind of like boom, 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 boom. And I felt like I wanted them to be a little bit more cohesive and a little more in key. Like I'm absolutely a fan of dissonance, but it has to be kind of intentional, and it has to be very precise, and it didn't sound like this was trying to be dissonant. I mean, it's a very melodic style and a melodic track. So I would personally, and Schnitty also said that something about tightening up the drums with transient processing. I think the drums in general could be thicker. Like for me, they were coming out a little bit light and a little bit disconnected, which usually means that like you need to do some more bus processing to tie them all together, maybe some parallel saturation or something. He sent the wrong damn song.
I mean, I was thinking I've never heard this before.
Well then, all right. What did you think about it, Natty?
Well, I mean, for something that I was trying to work out, how have I heard this before? Because that was definitely occupying a few moments of my thought there. I think you're onto the right idea here with the vibe. I agree, the steel drum doesn't quite work for me yet. I think the biggest problem for me, even more so than the sort of slightly dissonant melody, is the fact that it's the same interval every time. Like, it just sort of does one thing, and it doesn't really... Like, if you're actually playing on a steel drum or any sort of real organic instrument, people are sloppy, even when they're trying to be precise, and right now it sounds very robotic. But it's also a case of like swagger and swing, and you don't really have any of that yet. It's all very in the pocket and on the grid. And those sort of light metallic instruments are actually really good to sort of add that groove, because they're not too punchy and present in the track, and it sort of just it becomes more subtle than that then, rather than like say a slap bass or something where it's in your face. It's not like that. So it's a really classy way of adding a bit of swing to your track, and I think that'd be fun to play with. Swag. You want swag, huh?
Swag. Yeah, no, and I mean, Baco Bibizo is saying it's a synth. I didn't think to humanize it. There's a tricky balance, because like when you're making, let's say, techno, it's the opposite of humanizing, right? But I think that there is this funkiness to your track that deserves a little bit like Natty said in the pocket. I think that's a wrong term, because in the pocket usually means it's like right in the groove. I would say it's just too on the nose, right? And on the grid, which is the second thing you said, is more what I would think is correct. It's really just semantics, but I think we mean the same thing. Like it needs to just fit into the song a little bit better, and maybe, yeah, if not some swing, like definitely just changing some stuff up and changing the dynamic of it all, I think would be really cool. But yeah, it was the wrong song. We liked it anyways. No harm done. Yeah, next up we have Yes Please, always a favorite, always stressing about his submission and saying that it's going to be horrible and apologizing. So I'll apologize on his behalf, and then I will tell myself to shut up because I'm pretending to be him and going, no, don't apologize. All right. We're going to listen to Yes Please's latest. I'm really stoked to see what that is. if SoundCloud lets me. Dun, 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 dun.
1, 2, 3. I'm a bad motherfucker now. Hey. On a beat like this, I'd be quick to tear a sucker down. You can catch me hopping around town, chasing bad thoughts that are mad hot in all the bad spots, getting back shots. Like I'm all up in the selfies. Big bank on the bag, yeah, she looking wealthy. Roll up in a nice blue rack, staying stealthy. I got the fucking bag, yeah, pocket saying healthy. Ain't shit you can tell me, man, I'm in my zone right here. Girl, you put it on right here. And I'm feeling lucky, trying to win a jackpot. Sevens in the crap spot, rolling up the dice, let me hit it on the back shot. Feels so good when you put that loving on me like back shots. Come here and give them to me. I be dealing with fever, at least 103. Come on, give me that back shot, 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 back. Lay it back up in this cut, let a fella get loose on this. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shots, goddamn girl, you don't miss. I sip, I dip, I drip, you know I be on my ish. Booty flowing like water, and I might just be a fish. Hold up, let me get in it, I'm sure I fit. Girl, that booty level snickers thick. Mommy built your house out of hella bricks. It makes no sense, but let me live in it. And we counting up cash like the government. I'ma pay this rent, I'ma put it all in. Like I'm trying to win a jackpot. Sevens in the crap spot, rolling up the dice, let me hit it on the back shot. Oh, feels so good when you put that loving on me like back shots. Come here and give them to me. I be dealing with fever, at least 103. Come on, give me that back shot, 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 back.
Always coming in hot. It's yes, please. Natty, what did you think of that seductive journey? How are you feeling today?
I muted myself. Oh well, anyway. As usual, Yes Please is like, oh, this is just a thing, I just recorded the vocals like 2 seconds ago, but they're always so solid. You generally at least always have a good idea in your head of what you're doing before you go and record it. It's cool. I mean, I think for this one, the overall progression is really solid. I mean, it's not necessarily particularly experimental, but it all works, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a really cool vibe. So really now it's just going back over everything and making sure you're getting all the production right. Because, I mean, for example, I think some of your vocal layering, as you develop it further, can get more expansive and a little bit bigger. And maybe even start experimenting with, I don't know, light vocoder use as well with your sublayers of your voice, because they're kind of cool, but they, right now in their current state, are a little bit more raw than this track is probably calling for. I mean, this definitely feels like everything needs to be as sort of smooth and flowy as possible. You know, but I mean, it is a generally really well written songs. I mean, you know, as usual, you're like, my time management's terrible, I really suck, please tell me I don't. And then we're, you know, this is just confirmed, you know, you're good, keep going.
Absolutely. What did you think, Stasis?
I freaking loved it. Every time I hear a song that is, my quality measurement is whether it's playlist worthy, whether I'd put it on a playlist of mine, and that totally spot on. It's really good. I think there could be some mixing stuff, but that's all. I don't know how much of a work in progress this is. There could be some vocal doubling going on. I prefer with that kind of like jazzy track to have a tighter vocal. Just a preference, but man, I loved it. It was definitely like that could be on like that new movie that came out, Bad Guys. Like that's totally like a heist song. I saw a comment about that. That was spot on, man. Like could be synced to anything.
Yeah, super dope again. And like the smoothness of your vocals just always makes me feel really good. And I would say to make it more unique, because it is a solid song, solid beat, and like just to give it a little bit of a quirky edge, I would suggest Household Foley. household Foley is really magical because you literally can just do it in, like I can do it right here, right? I can just find things to hit, hopefully not things that are breakable. That's my pro tip of the day. Don't smash things that are that you don't want to break if you're trying to do Foley. I mean, it may be worth it, it may not. But even if you don't have a field recorder, even if you just have your phone, just to take little shots of hits, like one of my best ones that made all my roommates laugh at me at the time. I was living with people and I just was like, oh yeah, I was washing dishes and I was washing a metal bowl and the water just swirled around in it and it was like, and I was just, no, and then I just sat there trying to get it. But my point is, I mean, yes, you can get Foley libraries as well too, but I think it's really unique to record your own sounds, and then you can also control it. You can be like, I love that weird bowl, now I'm gonna actually like play it to a rhythm, and now you can create that little extra timbre. And I think that would also, like, having some clinks and clanks, like metallic sounding sounds, would really go well with the palette that you have, because your voice, again, it's very smooth and round, and a lot of your sounds are smooth and round. So I think that having a little angular Foley, and then one more thing to mention, sorry, I somebody said it in the chat and I was like, I think it was Endiment maybe, but like the triangles are a little bit sharp. So I would just go in, just do a tiny bit of EQing, and because we want the metallic sound, but we don't want the piercing sound, right? So, and that's just like, that's whip stuff. That's stuff that you're going to deal with in the mix. So no problem, but we love you. Please keep creating music. You're so awesome.
So good.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And
could I jump back in on the Foley
of
for
course.
just a sec?
Yeah.
Two things that I really like to use for Foley are like a record player, just like the record scratches of an old LP or something like that. Just getting a recording of one of those and messing around with it, and ambience of like an environment somewhere. And I don't know why, but I found this track these group of ambient takes from Cairo of all places, and they're like my favorite thing to put in, because you can find those sounds that kind of make your songs a little bit more unique to you, and people hear it, they can tell it's yours for some reason, even if they can't place their figure on it. And I don't know, if besides just recording something yourself, if you're going to look around and hunt something down, like find a sound that really appeals to you and get that ear candy going.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
And that's how you can tell we've got a regular on the stream here.
Yes, that is amazing. We have a queue jumper. Thank you very much for your donation, Iarski, aka Audion. Did they have any? Nathaniel, please jump in and tell me if people. Oh wait, you want to read it out loud with your silken voice?
Okay. This is my first song I have produced. Would like to hear feedback on the song structure, sound design, and mix and master. Would like to know if I have achieved a balanced result. I am super happy, however, with how it turned out.
All right, song structure, sound design, mix and master. Let us get going. Sorry, it's a remix of Audion. It's X-Space. My bad.
She got dark skies and black eyes. Wear a gold dress to first light. Like a spirit on cage, she's taking over me. And now we're staring up into the sky together. Our star will never die. And God picked us so we could roll again. We could be pharaohs, watching as the world unfolds, living in another life, together as the sky ignites. We could be pharaohs, watching as the world unfolds, 'cause there's nowhere else I'd rather be, when we're lying here for eternity, like pharaohs, and we can lie here like pharaohs. Like breathe it out. I hear the words come out your mouth, but don't say we're in love if we don't know where it ends. We set out on a desert road, never figured out what the future holds. Now you got me lying here, forgetting about the world we know. We gon' be pharaohs, watching as the world unfolds, living in another life, together as
All right. Did I see in the chat that this is their first track? No way.
That's what they said. So, I mean, are we just gonna be getting a thing? I mean, do we
I think we need like a first track celebratory emoji. I'll get on making that. I mean, wow. Like I definitely, my first track sounded like a cat vomiting. So, good on you. You've done a way better job than I did on my first track. Yeah, a few people have said it already in the chat, but like the first thing that really stood out to me was the vocal and the treatment of it. And I'm not really sure like how you got this vocal, like if you extracted it or something, but the reverb is very metallic and kind of hollow, and I think that it's not really doing the vocal justice. There's a couple of things that you can do to alleviate that, and one of them, which is something I say almost every episode, is EQ your reverb. It's possible that you put a reverb on there and you didn't EQ the low end of just the reverb. And of course, if this is your first track, you're probably like, what are you even talking about? But if you can EQ your reverb, you can cut out reverberation of frequencies that you don't want to reverberate. Like for instance, you don't want reverb on the low end of the vocal, right? And you don't want reverb on probably the low mids, because that's going to create more of that resonant hollowness of that. So EQing the reverb is a big thing. And then others suggested maybe try a different reverb. This one sounds very metallic and plate-like, but it doesn't really go with the rest of the song, because it kind of has like the plate reverb gives that like 80s synthwave sound, and you have a very modern EDM track. So I think like other than that, it's hard for me to say much about people's first tracks, because just keep making more is usually what I like to say. I mean, I think that you did a fantastic job and you should keep doing it. Another thing that I will just make a note on is this is 5 minutes and 20 seconds long. For this style of music, it's quite a long track. If you're making house, techno, trance, 7 minutes, like, when we used to clown, all us bass people, we used to clown on house people and be like, yeah, I wish I could take a shit when I was DJing too. Sorry, I don't have a 10-minute track to go to the bathroom with. But for EDM and for like bass type of stuff, it's weird. I feel like, and for vocal stuff, people really have been tending to stick to this 3.5 to 4 minute, almost like a radio edit, like a slightly longer radio edit. And I wonder if it's just because future bass and mainstream EDM has basically gone mainstream, like now it is getting played on like Sirius and stuff. So people are, and also like there's a lot of edits and attention spans are short and whatnot. And I feel like it's not a rule, but I would say like you could have probably ended it at that second breakdown or done a very short outro. So I might say like it might be better for the short term to try making shorter tracks as well, because then you can focus more on the elements that you have and not get overwhelmed with like huge expanses of tracks to work on. You know what I mean? Natty, what did you think of that?
I mean, I find it interesting that you use an AI to try and extract the vocals. I think this comes back down to the fact that AI itself is, it has no sense of context. I think that, it's a very good way of sort of just shoving things in a blender and seeing what happens. But this is a case of where maybe you start using the AI version as a reference when you're trying to extract something like this, and then just doing it yourself, getting closer to that, but sort of with more finesse, because that's something that I think can be beneficial. It's the same way like pitch correction. One of the things that's really cool is you can actually sing to your own pitch corrected version and match yourself, but the robot version of you, and it sounds more authentic, and you can actually hit it because you know what you're meant to be aiming for. But I mean, I haven't heard the original diss track, and we're probably going to get upset on YouTube for playing it, but oh well. I think that some interesting comments about the stereo field with the vocals. Where is it?
Yeah, let me interrupt you and say, please don't send us release tracks like that. Like I'm in a rush today, and so I didn't catch that, but this is really bad for us because we get strikes. And when we get strikes, the more strikes we get, the less likely we can stay on air. So please, this is really bad, and this is going to get us definitely muted and possibly slapped. Do not send us remixes of release stuff. Do not even send us your own release stuff unless you can 100% swear to me that you've put like a Creative Commons or an attribution license on it where we are allowed to play it, because you will fuckrshit up. Sorry, Nathaniel, continue.
Nick Bayman said, I'd also place the vocals more in the middle of the mix. Now, I'm not sure I 100% agree with that, but for good reason. One of the tricks, especially if you're writing poppier stuff, is to have your verses sit more in the middle and mono, and your choruses move out further into stereo field, because it helps maintain a change in your energy levels. Like stereo width is energy in the same way that a presence of bass or lack thereof is a modulation of energy. And it's another little trick you can effectively use to sort of make the track more fun and dynamic. So it's not that I'd place all the vocals more middle in the mix, but I'd place the more versy bits of the vocals in the middle of the mix, and then have more fun and expansion later. Stasis Stigma, have you done a lot of work with vocals?
So I would still consider myself a noob, but I feel like there were some things in there missing that I would have done a little differently. First of all, Natty, don't you dare poop on AI in front of me ever again. Okay, that's not nice to me as an AI. You know.
Are you an AI?
Yeah. I wasn't born. I was created.
Have you reached a singularity, huh?
Yes. Not here to take over the human race. Just want to make you guys dance. Just kidding. So I do personally love Lol. I think it's a great tool. You got to be careful though, because it's going to give you mixed results. Some songs it will pull the vocals super well, and some of them it just misses. So I just wouldn't use it as like a catch-all. But it sounded like you were doing additive EQing instead of subtractive EQing on the vocal at the beginning. Now I may be wrong. That might be Lol just doing that, and giving it that tingy sound. But I would have done some subtractive EQing before like really early in that vocal process chain, whatever you have set up there. The other thing is pre-delay on reverb. It can be super helpful for bringing a vocal forward in a mix while still having the reverb in there, because you want to be able to make sure you're matching the space that you're in. So pre-delay is something I would recommend. Every reverb that I know of has pre-delay as an option, so I would definitely check that out. It's usually like preset on most things that I've seen to like a few milliseconds, and you want to put it, like in my experience, you want to put it like 40 milliseconds. It gives a lot more presence to the vocal without having to turn it up, which is great. So but it's a great track. I enjoyed it.
Super great advice. We're so glad to have you. Really appreciate it. Next up, we have Wren Bluffs. And Nathaniel, is there anything to say from them, or are we just giving general feedback?
Any feedback is useful. I'm new and still have a ton to learn. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Wren Bluffs. We are stoked. And thank you for the subscription. Like I said, subscriptions are new, but we are kind of treating them the same as just donating $5 to us right now. You will get more and more perks as we figure out what the heck to do for you, including a one-on-one visit from Nathaniel where he gazes gently into your eyes and strokes your hair, if you're into that sort of thing.
I'm not even sure I'm into that sort of thing.
All right.
You got to do whatever you need to do.
You got to do whatever you need to do. This is. I think it's called taking one for the team. All right, and shouts out to Wren for this Audius link. Audius is the best. That is an impressive effort, my friend. And whoa, Audius, you're too quick for me. Oh my God, it's going crazy. Audius doesn't want me to stop. It's taken me away. Finally got my
Can't stop,
visuals
won't
working
stop.
again too. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat are blowing up about reverb. And reverb is super important. Reverbs and delays. Reverbs are really just short delays. Mind blow tip of the week. They create space and dimension. And I think that you have some beautiful big ideas, but there's two issues here. One is that, like, as others said, they're not necessarily in the right space, which is something reverb can fix. And two is they're not all cohesively in the same space, which is also can be a reverb thing. So I'm going to let Stasis talk first, definitely with some reverb tips or anything about space or anything else you want to say.
So I'm super lazy when it comes to reverb, and I copy and paste my reverbs all the time. I know a lot of people use buses. I'm not really a bus fan personally, but I have a rig that can handle a ton of tracks at once. So it's kind of like busing will kind of, if you don't have some like 12-core processor or something, busing is going to make that a lot easier on your PC or your Mac, whatever. But having the reverb be almost the same, and like if the reverb's going to be different between sounds, then make that intentional is what I would say. The other thing I would do on that track is you had a lot of high-end, I'm going to say it again, ear candy. You have a lot of high-end stuff going on, which is great, but it's kind of like random and sporadic. There were a lot of times when there were risers coming up in the middle of bars, and that just doesn't work for me personally as far as like listening to something, wanting to listen to it again. I want transitions to have risers. I want the high-end impacts to be when something is going to change. I remember there was like a double snare hit like on like the third bar of a measure, or the third measure of a bar instead of the fourth, and it like really threw me off because I was like, oh, is something changing up? And then it like kept going, and then it did a double snare hit again. So there's some things like that I would just work on with your patterns. A couple other people mentioned that some of the melody was a little bit sporadic and a little bit randomized, which can be really good if that's what you're going for. But I mean, it doesn't have to have wide movement to be interesting, in my opinion. Something can be, you know, like da 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 da, and be an interesting melody if it has good rhythm to it, you know. But it's
Da 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 da.
da 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 da. Yeah. So there's lots of songs that utilize just rhythm, and so I think shifting your melodic stuff more to something that sounds really good to you and just finding the right rhythm for it might help the song a lot. And also, I apologize if you see me bobbing my head and I'm not in sync with the music at all, it's because I have to switch over to the stream because I'm not getting I want to get the best audio quality, and that's on the stream for me.
You should be getting stereo.
I
thought
it's just the bit. I think the bit rate's down on the stream on our room versus the stream. So I'm just getting
it must
better
be your
quality
internet
on the
connection,
stream.
perhaps.
Yeah, and
Totally
Nathaniel,
could
are
be
you
that.
getting good audio?
Yeah, it's fine on my end.
That's super weird. So we use a browser technology, just for everyone watching, and it's supposed to, especially when I put certain commands, which I do, transmit the highest quality. So sometimes it can be internet, sometimes it can be browser. I don't know if you're using a Chrome-based browser or not. Hopefully you are. If you're not,
Yes, it's
okay, yeah, it's weird. But whatever you want to do, if that's working for you,
Yeah, it's
maybe
working great to switch over. I just have a
maybe
little bit of
some
delay
other
there.
time, if you come back when I'm not running from a train, we can spend a minute checking it and check your connection. It was very, very tight today. Yeah, I'm gonna just say, as well as some other things that people mentioned, were stereo field, because again, this is about creating a space, and so reverb is one way to do it, stereo field is another. And some great plugins were recommended. I want to shout them out. Wider by Polyverse. I think it was last week when I talked about, or maybe the week before, all the Polyverse plugins and how cool they are. It's a really nice free plugin. Pancake, another free plugin by Cable Guys. This will also give you some stereo panning and some other cool stuff. And there's a lot of cool delay stuff in the chat. And Jonah is questioning. I'm not going to flex too much. I am going to say that I was a professor of music production technology and innovation, and I promise you that a reverb is a short delay. I promise you that that's what reverb is. And, Jonah's saying, oh, reverbs are emulations of rooms. Not always. Reverbs are sometimes completely digital things that are not meant to sound like anything. They are just really short delays, and that is what happens. Like, what tells me that I'm in a bedroom versus a cathedral is, in a cathedral, my voice is going to echo back to me, and if the cathedral is really big, it'll sound like a delay. The Grand Canyon gives you a delay because it takes so freaking long for your voice to hit the end of the Grand Canyon and to come back to you. But in my bedroom, there is going to be some reverb, but it's going to be so quick and it's going to be so close. That's what makes it sound different. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing, and especially I think when you're getting into production, you see reverbs are rooms, and they have this like nice sound, and you don't associate it with delay, but trust me, it is. Also, what was I going to say about that track? Most of it, I think, just really has to do with the space, and I do agree with Stasis. There were some kind of random risers and things like that. I think if you're fairly new to producing, it's just one thing that you can do is A, keep making more tracks, B, play around with different effects, like especially free plugins. Just load yourself up with a couple different reverbs and try them. Like, don't always, sometimes it's easy, even if you are experienced, we get lazy, right? We're just like, yeah, like you were saying, Stasis, like, I just gonna use this reverb because I always use this reverb and it's cool. That's cool too, but especially if you're like learning too, just go and try some different ones and go, okay, what makes me like that? Or what sounds weird about that? And just really like dig in and find out. And then you will start to be able to build your trusty reverbs that you like, that can save you time. Because when you get more experienced, you sometimes just like, okay, I just want a basic reverb. I don't want something crazy. But right now, I think that playing with weird reverbs could really benefit you, because something like Comet, which I talked about in a different week, where you can automate between different reverb impulses, and you can get like a crazy weird like vinyl speeding up kind of sound just from moving between the impulses of those rooms. Something else really crazy that you can do in Ableton, if you have Ableton and you have Max for Live and some of the devices, there's a convolution reverb, and you can
just gonna say that.
You're
so on point.
We're so on point. The convolution reverb, and you can drop any sample in there, and it turns it into an impulse reverb shape. So you could have like your vocal with the impulse reverb of a piece of toast coming out of the toaster, if you happen to have a sample of that, and it can sound really weird And Radis, Radis also said this in the chat, and I was not even looking at the chat. So it seems like we're all in sync. No, wait, that's a boy band. We could be in sync. We just need 2 more people, actually.
Maybe the in
We're all-
sync was in with us all along.
Ooh.
We're all a bunch of dirty dishes because we're in sync.
Oh,
no.
Oh my
Do we need a
God.
bad pun graphic?
Ba-dum.
Is that what we need?
I think so. Oh, do we have Cross Couloir again next? Oh, I think
Yes,
we
we do.
And did they have any specific feedback?
This is meant to be a more low-key, hypnotic piece, but I'm concerned it might be a little too hypnotic.
A little too. Okay, so the test will be like, do I pass out during the stream or nah? We'll see.
Maybe that.
gonna force me to listen to techno because every week I feel like I'm letting them down because I do not listen to techno. I know very little about techno. What I do know about techno is that everybody in frickin' Spain almost exclusively only listens to techno, and I can't get away from it. I am not the right person. I like it as far as it's a techno track, but I am not a person who wants to be hypnotized. I'm a person who's super spastic and wants to jump around and hear lots of edits. So I'm gonna let the others talk. I'm gonna just say that mix-wise to me, it sounds decent. Everything sits in the right place, and I don't see anything wrong with it. Nothing is jumping out. Everything sounds fairly clear to me. Natty, do you have techno comments?
I mean, well, first I'm going to say I've enjoyed watching you level up at making techno in real time. That's actually quite cool. So, good job on the continued improvements. The other thing is, I agree with some of the comments about maybe automating the filters on your lead sounds a little bit, because right now they get to the point where they introduce themselves and then get very static, which I think is probably where you're getting maybe it's too hypnotic and repetitive kind of angle. There's just not quite enough movement there. I'm also in agreement with Schlop here about the sub versus your kicks transient. I think that there is ever so slightly too much space between those two impacts. It's not a huge amount of space, but it's just if it's ever so slightly tighter, I think it would be way more harder, thumpier carnage.
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 Are you trying to say that they need to make it bigger or louder?
Yes. But I mean, like, I think it's more just you'll perceive the impact more if the transient of your kick and that sub tail are a little bit more closer together. It would just have that boom, 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 because it really should sound closer to a heartbeat than anything else.
Good point. Stasis, I don't know if you're a techno person, but hopefully more than me.
My extent of techno is probably Deadmau5. I love almost all of Deadmau5's stuff, and I know he's not like totally techno, but and this is probably so. What I'm gonna say is coming from that perspective, and that is I would have loved a melodic breakdown in the middle of that track. I would have loved it because I love like the whole techno. Getting into that trance feel, getting into that hypnotized feel, and then having a great breakdown that is different and that brings a reason to like go through that song. There's a song, I think it's called "Where Are My Keys" by Deadmau5. It's one of my favorite breakdowns in a techno track, and it's so good. And I think that. Using that could be helpful, but I really liked the song a lot, personally.
Nice. I like what Aiden said. With techno, you can automate the low frequency of the kick for dynamics, push and pull. Thank you, Aiden, for your techno wisdom. I need more of it. So thank you to everyone in the chat, and welcome to some new people. And Radis gave some cool advice too. Shouts out, do not be afraid to jump in, because this is what we want. We love being in the space with our friends, because opinions are also subjective, and like we all have different headphones, we all have different rooms, so we're all hearing different things. I love it. So please feel free to send links in the chat. We all love your advice, and like I said, you're all welcome to be guests on the stream too. We are gonna cue jump now and have Voxen next. Shouts out to Voxen for subscribing last week, and thank you so much. And Nathaniel, could you please read the comment?
I can indeed. Took a look at one of my first tracks and made the drops better. I just want a vibe check on the drops, but general critique is appreciated. My next goal for the whip is to keep refining transitions and control the energy of the verse and the break.
Props for going back on a track that you did a while back.
Absolutely.
That's always fun.
Why not?
Why keep me hiding where the sun is dark? It's time want to know where you are. Why keep me hiding where the sun is dark? The sun is dark.
My favorite comment on this, some serious compressor violence. I 100% agree. And the Mint, I think definitely like the overcompression is a real thing. It's a real problem in today's electronic music production society, and we don't talk about it enough. Compressors.
Nobody overcompresses. Come on.
No, nobody. It's and I can sort of see, like, you can see the waveform is a little bit sausagey, and I think that when you take away the dynamics too much, and I've talked about this before, it ends up sounding quieter, especially when it gets turned down on streaming services, because there's nothing to push and pull. There's nothing to jump out at you because it's all on the same level. So I think your bass, your whole like synth sounds are super tight and really thick. But yeah, as James Slack said, the snare kind of ends up hitting like a wet noodle because it's been smushed. And this actually reminds me of sometimes if you are playing a festival, they will have a very, very aggressive, as they should, compressor on the master to prevent people from redlining. And a lot of beginner DJs especially will crank the gain and excuse me, crank the gain and get this I don't know what happened. I choked on air. It happens. They'll crank the gain and they get this wet noodle sound because it's over compressing. So over compression is a problem. Nathaniel, I'm going to let you talk while I die.
Get well soon. Rest in peace. Yeah, I'm in agreement here. I also think there's a case in some parts where you've clearly kind of processed everything with an EQ to death a little bit too. I mean, some of your really saturated sounds I feel like should have more bite than they do for this sort of track. I mean, it's a track with attitude, and that means you want a little bit of grit, and it feels like you've just kind of smoothed it all out. That's a shame, because I think this track could be really, really, really fun. In the actual arrangement, it's solid. You're also clearly channeling some of those sort of mid-tempo cyberpunk vibes. I mean, is it not someone like Gus Affelstein or something that deals with a lot of these sort of sounds? I don't know whether you've listened to them, Stasis. No. You got, I mean, even people like Rez use vocal lines a bit like this as well. You know, so that mid-tempo techno house kind of vibe. But obviously you're going a lot wilder with your synth arps and your little squelches and things, and that's all a lot more fun in my book as well. So I mean, I definitely just, as well, before you look at your limiter settings, it's also just turn it off entirely and have a look at your mix and see what you're cutting that doesn't actually need to be cut, because I'm pretty sure you're just taking the edge off a little bit too much. Also, maybe have a look at transient shaping, not just your drum sounds, that's a really useful tool there to make them punch, but any sort of metallic synths can sometimes benefit from a transient shaper as well. Because it's again about bringing that edge in, but with that you don't want to be harsh, you just want to be punchy and crackly.
Speaking of overcompression, I just found this sausage and I'm going to eat it while Stasis Stigma talks.
I really okay. I really liked that song. I think one of my favorite songs ever, like way back in the day when Wreck-It Ralph came out. There was that scene where they like come out of the ship and they're all shooting the bugs and stuff, and Skrillex did Bug Hunt, which was never officially released. There's like another version that they released on the soundtrack, but it was one of my favorite songs, and it's like the ultimate, like, you could take any streamer's compilation of like all their headshots and put that track on it and it would be golden. Like, it's just perfect. So I loved like that vibe. There was a breakdown in the middle of the track that had the ARP going, and it like totally threw me off from the rhythm of the song. So I was bobbing my head the whole time. I was really enjoying it, but that breakdown, I don't know if this is true or not, but it kind of seemed like you had redone some of the other things from when you had first like made it, but there were a couple of aspects of the song that you didn't really touch again. And so I think going through with a fine-tooth comb and like figuring out what other elements need to be addressed in the song, like if you were going to do it now, what things would you do differently? Because it definitely had some moments where it felt like it was still one of the first tracks you made, and now and then like moments where it was like a more recent track you made. Like I could tell the skill differences in different sections of the song, so I would work on that a little bit. But I really enjoyed that track.
Nice. Yes. I mean, we all enjoyed it. I think it had this very, like, it kind of reminded me of the acid, like, Crystal Method stuff that was really big in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, that stuff, kind of stuff they would use in, like, The Matrix and stuff like that. So that's very, very cool stuff. Nathan asked where in Spain I'm located. Right now I'm in Valencia for only another couple of weeks, and then I'm going back to my house in Denver for a while to hang out and to do some ILBC stuff over in the US of A, and then I'm gonna come back to Spain, and then who knows where I'm gonna go. Ooh, next up, this is gonna be a little weird. We're gonna review Stasis Stigma themselves.
I asked Natty before if that was bad form or not, so
No,
if
it's
anyone
not.
has a problem with it, blame
No one
him.
has a problem with it. The queue is democratic. Anyone can do it. But, you know, it's just like, what if it's like, you're just right there and I have to look at your... Good thing you're wearing a mask. I don't have to look you in the
Yeah,
eye.
you can see my reaction. No,
Also, with 25 responses now tonight, I'm closing the queue because we need to make sure we can actually get through everybody's. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bring me to life, I need you. Bring me to life, I need you. Bring me to life, I need you. Bring me to life, I need you.
Telling you they can't get in here.
And I'm telling you, those things turned over our car.
little bit concerned with what's actually underneath that mask.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not facist or anything, but do you have a face?
It's I do. It's right here.
Okay. All right.
There's
Beautiful
that,
face. Can you see it?
That Japanese mythology creature that steals faces.
Props to Airlift who caught the Half-Life reference. Props to you indeed.
Yeah, I mean, that was I don't play enough video games to catch anything like that. If anyone has seen the very embarrassing pictures that used to be circulated of me trying to hold a PlayStation controller, let's just hope those never come out again.
I have not seen this.
It sort of looks like a spider trying to get out of its cage. The best way I would describe it. But I mean, I thought that like mostly that was pretty sick. Like you're obviously very experienced with mixing, and like this style of music is like not very forgiving, you know? Like it has to be mixed well, and you definitely hit all that you checked all the boxes. Like everything is crisp but not like piercing and everything. The only thing I would say for me is that some of the, like, I know this is kind of not the most melodic genre in itself, but some of the melodies of the synths, there were points like in the beginning where it would kind of stay on the same note, like it was like da 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 na na na, and sometimes I kind of wanted that to at least like change octave or something so that it wasn't just the same note over and over again. That's really my only little pick. Natty, did you hear anything?
I mean, for me as well, I feel like there was places where you wanted to go really, really weird and really dark with how you affects up your vocal, and then you just sort of stopped and then went back to the original version of it. I mean, the reversed version was a neat touch, and sort of, you know, everyone's like, oh my god, this is turning satanic kind of vibe now, isn't it, once we get to that point, you know, speaking in tongues. But I feel like once you started pitch shifting the vocal, you could have gone way further and darker and weirder and start stacking them in multi-harmonic versions of that voice, and it would sounded really, really edgy and creepy and horrifying almost. Something I don't know, like what they would typically in sci-fi denote a hive mind with, you know, that kind of thing where everything's just sort of microtonal and multi-layered.
Ooh, that's a really good idea. Actually, I think.
The other thing as well with the Isha's thought about the really stacked notes. You can, if you want to go with that route, it is possible to get it to work. But then I'd recommend maybe stealing from cinematic music, where you have percussive hits and you change the timbre of those and have them so they're hitting on every note at the same time too.
Timber, chop some wood. Timber.
But overall, I think that aside from maybe just seeing if you can push it forward just a little bit more experimental and edgy, I think you did a really good job. So well done.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I like that storytelling too. It's really fun to hear proper like little outros and intros, and I think obviously like this is mostly a whip show, so a lot of the time we don't get to hear that part. We hear sort of the meat of the track and the person comes back, but you know, I definitely appreciate a really good intro and outro, and I think that, you know, yeah, okay, DJs may never play it, but people, if you wanted to like listen to it on Spotify or listen to it at home, I think it's super valuable in storytelling. So good one. We love you. Thank you for being here. And it's always fun when the person is on, because then they can like talk back to you. Iden Music did say, you know, maybe a bit of effects on the vocals at the end, delay, reverb, pitch shift. I think that's a good suggestion as well. And then Radis also mentioned Manipulator. So I love those Polyverse plugins. We were talking about it on Plugin of the Week, but through Manipulator and I Wish, I definitely can really mess with stuff, especially for voices. So it definitely has a learning curve, but just listening to your production, I think that you could handle it. It took me a while of finicking around, but for those of you who have bought any samples from my best-selling Splice pack, Intonations, I actually used a lot of Polyverse plugins to make specifically the loops, just to create interesting timbres and textures that I could absolutely never make in real life. And then sometimes like you can do stuff with formant shift automation and vocoders and stuff, but Manipulator shortcuts a lot of that. It's kind of like running automation on 5 things at once, so it has a really cool variety to it. So yeah, next up we got J Lotto. Stoked to hear what you got. Is there any feedback specific comment, Nathaniel?
Is there enough variation, and can you tell me something about the mixing quality? Thank you.
You're very welcome, J Lotto. You're so welcome. All right, Jay Lotto. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff to be addressed with the mix, but for me, right off the bat, I'm gonna say, I think you're missing like a lot of mid range, which is usually something I do not say, because most of the time people have problems with too much mid range because almost everything has mid range. But in your case, it's like you have this really rich low sub, and that's sounding really nice in my sub pack, and you have some highs, and then the drums themselves are a little bit thin, and I just feel like there's so much space that is not necessarily like there's good space that you want to keep, but I think that space could be filled with some mid-range stuff. I'm not sure if that was coming through for anyone else, but Stasis, like, what were you hearing kind of in that mix?
I think it could have used a little bit more mid-range as well, but I could see that being a stylistic choice for this song, because I've heard other songs that that are really top-notch production that are similar, that are lacking that mid-range. I think it's like just a specific genre, perhaps. But I personally loved this. I think it could have, like, a couple of the, I don't even want to call them false beats or false drops or whatever, like parts where you had like just the bass going and we were like waiting for the drums to come back in and bring that vibe back. I think those were drug out just a little bit too long. That's obviously personal opinion, but I was like waiting for that vibe to kick back in, and like just the snare would hit, and then it was kind of like sporadic, a little bit unpredictable. And if that's what you're going for, great. But if you're wanting to create that vibe and create that head bob like throughout the track, then I would maybe address those a little bit.
Very wise. Natty?
Shinidi had a good suggestion there to maybe answer that, whether I'd say in that case there maybe isn't quite enough variation to drive it along, and Shinidi's suggestion here is pretty good. It's maybe layer in some small synth plucks with delay or some background bleeping to add a bit more drive to the track. I think that would sort of allow those transitions to come in more naturally than they do right now. But the other thing as well is that maybe it's a case of you've written the overall track and you've got it arranged, and then you've never really revisited each section to go, okay, is this actually the length it needs to be? You've sort of just jumped immediately to the sound design and mixing and never returned. And at least with electronic stuff like this, when you're in your DAW, you don't have to call everything finished until you just sort of hit the final render point and say, I'm sick of working on this. And it's okay to go back in and just tweak little bits here or there, cut a couple of bars off in places and shove everything forward or back or whatever. So I mean, maybe it's a case of not necessarily that stasis is right and that's the only way to do it, but it would be worth considering, just looking back through and saying, okay, am I definitely happy with this and how it transitions?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying too. Just to circle back, like you don't have to have always mid range, and I do love music with that aesthetic of low bass and treble. But I think that there's ways to create mid range presence without adding like a mid range sound per se. You know, you can do it with saturation. There's a lot of options for that. I would just play around with adding a little bit more thickness. Is sort of what I was getting at. Like it's okay if you have that space. If like your drums were kind of more thick, I really like analog, like tape emulators, saturation, and anything to just thicken that. I've been really playing, like some people use the RC20 a lot. I wouldn't necessarily use it on this, but more what I was going for would be like emulations of old like consoles and things like that. Like sometimes I'll use Waves NLS Bus. It's one of the only Waves plugins I've actually bought. I tried all of them years ago and I was like, this is crap. Oh, this one's really good. Waves is actually the small thing that they were really good at is console emulations. So yeah, no, I mean, airlift, it's a good question. Do you think that our ears are too accustomed now to tear out bro step, that things with less mid-range sound wrong? Not me, bro. I avoid the bro step quite a lot. I've always like and I'm actually not a mid-range fan. Like sometimes I don't really like rock music because I don't like the sound of mid-range electric guitars. Like just my own opinion. So definitely that's not the perspective where I'm coming at. You know, I'm coming at it just from a like thickness and balance of sound. But I mean, that is a good point. I do think that in general, our ears are too accustomed to really overcompress stuff. So maybe like in a sense, like dynamic range sounds a little bit like weird, but I do think that it's really important to create that thickness in that space. And actually, speaking of that, next up we have Schlop, and Schlop is usually very good at, you know, of course I'm going to say this and Schlop is going to come in hot with like a happy hardcore track, but Schlop usually creates these very nice, thick, deep, spacious soundscapes that have a lot of bass and not a lot of super mid-rangey stuff, but still fill the space. So I may be talking out of my sausage, but we're going to listen to this Schlop track and we are going to check it out. Was there any specific comments, Natty?
I feel like it would be better to mention a comment afterwards because I think it's more interesting if it's a surprise.
Oh, look at you being all coquettish. All right, then. thank you for not letting me down. That was exactly what I was talking about. That was a nice, deep, not super mid-rangey, but very thick and satisfying space. And that's thick with 2 C's, in case anybody wanted to clarify. Yeah, I love that. I love those sounds, but the only thing I would say for me, like that sax sound is super cool. I would like to see that match the intensity of the rest of the mix at times and come forward. I feel like it's a little bit in the back. And if you're going for, this dub classic sound, which I think you are, I would use a very classic dub delay at times on that sax. I think that would just bring it nicely into the space. If you want to know my secret, it's not really that much of a secret, all right, but it's a plugin by Audio Damage called Dub Station. It is my favorite dub delay. And yeah, God, I'm going to just die of shame. But this is also something I've talked about. Don't be ashamed sometimes to use presets to start with if they're good. Years ago, when I started using DubStation, there was a preset called Auto Magic. I don't even really actually know what it's called. I've just loaded it so many times. Auto Magic Dub or something. So it has this really nice filtered delay effect, and there's a ping pong setting. So my go-to thing to do when I want that classic sound is to start with that preset and then put the ping pong on and then change it from 1 delay to 2 delays in stereo and then put slightly different values on each side. And then you get this really nice stereo space, super filtered, just really nice weird delay. And I just think that bringing that saxy lead sound forward in the mix of it and giving it some warmth and then some classic dub delay would be really cool. But I mean, I really love your shit, and I am super excited when I come back to Denver to chill sometime. I'd love to go have a barbecue or something. And I want to have a Schlop back. We had the internet definitely acting up, so the visual was a little bit ass, and I would like to see Schlop's face in full quality motion. So we'll definitely have to have Schlop back on the show. But loved it. Stasis, what'd you think on that?
I really liked it. I think there was a lot of ambient elements that just made, I was just imagining Snails and Skrillex falling asleep. It was like a dubstep bro lullaby. It was great. I think the same thing with the sax. If you're wanting that to be more of a lead, then I'd maybe just tone it down, the ambience on the sax. There's a lot of flange, and there's a lot of just elements going on with it. I feel like I want to give a lot more feedback, but it's probably just mostly opinionated, and I'm not super familiar with this kind of genre. So, but I did enjoy it thoroughly. Slop. I didn't know you were in Denver either.
I have a couple of questions for both of you now. So, did the key change sound weird to you two?
It was
nope.
very fitting for the song to me.
Yeah, I think.
See, this is why I didn't tell you either, because then you'd be listening out for it. So I was obviously aware that it was coming.
Tricky little fox, Nathaniel. No, I mean, I noticed it in a good way, because I think that because the rest of it was hypnotic, having a little change like that is a way to create dynamic variation in your song while still being subtle. So
there was, in fact, I think there was a lot of ambience is not the right word, but out of key elements, trying to create this kind of chaotic feeling before the key change, and then the key change happened, and I don't know if that was if that was done intentionally to make it so the key change would be less abrupt. I don't think that's needed personally. The vibe was great, and a key change could be very sudden, and you could still get away with it, in my opinion. And
Man,
Nat, you are sneaky. Natty, you're super sneaky.
Schlop, you should be copying these comments. You have a whole new press kit on your hands. It's like Skrillex falling asleep. I'm going to read a few more of them because they're great. Honestly, I was hitting up my bong during that track, and every time I hit it, the track got better. I was doing something else on another screen, had to stop right after the intro and just vibe, from James Slack. And then just a great comment when I was talking about presets from Sleepy Muse. I used to be a preset elitist before I realized that we don't actually live long enough to become an expert in every plugin. Word. And you don't need to. I use presets for inspiration. Sometimes if they sound good, then you customize it to your track, obviously, you know, like fixed delay values, fixed envelopes. Use it as a starting point, especially when you're stuck. Like sometimes if I'm stuck, I'll just put a sample or a basic synth sound in and just like tab through a bunch of like weird delay settings or distortion and just try to get a texture that inspires me to make a song. So
I'm a shameless preset junkie. I use presets all the time. I don't care. I mean, I remember when people like, so when I first started, I was like, I really want to learn how to use Serum really well. And so I do know Serum pretty well and like Massive, but now like I could build something or I could use a preset that I've already gone through and have selected that I like. Because I remember a time when I wouldn't use like anything. I wouldn't use like one shots. I wouldn't use like loops from anything because I was so like, I want to be the creator of this music. And I realized like if I was an artist, if I was a painter, like, and I wanted to create my own painting, then I wouldn't use stencils and I would only use brushes. And then, but would I have to make the brushes for it to be authentic, or would I have to make the paint for it to be authentic, or the canvas, or like all these tools, like presets and loops and stuff to me are just tools.
well, also think about this. Collage art is still really cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just like it's really about, at the end of it, is it a good song? Does it stay with people? And what makes a good song is a really kind of intangible thing because it is subjective, but there's never going to be a case where like everyone likes it, right? But if you can move people, that's the most important thing. I mean, personally, like I love sound design. I was a sound design professor for a few years and I adore it and I love playing with VSTs, but I like to mix and match the two. Like there are days when I feel like making a bunch of sounds and doing it like that, and there are days where I want more organic things, so it's better to use samples anyways, you know? And it's about just your idea coming together. So, I mean, that being said, conversely, I would argue, like, I think that people that just copy and paste like entire construction kits and release them as tracks are pretty lame, and that has happened. So I'm not talking about that, you know what I mean? Like people who just use like a lead melody synth entire loop just unaltered and then put it with like all the same drums, and it's basically like the demo track from the sample pack. Like add your own flavor to it, please. But definitely I agree, like don't get hung up on, you know, I've talked about this before too, but I'll tell it again real quick because I know there's a lot of new people. When I moved to San Francisco for the first time, it was my first time living away from home. I'm from Vancouver, BC, and I'd been playing a lot of festivals and kind of coming up in the scene, and started Glitch Hop Forum website with my friends, which was before I did this Discord. It was my previous project, and a lot of people who are now really cool producers in the EDM scene used to be moderators or give advice on there. People like EPROM and Il Gates and stuff. So anyways, I'm gonna basically, oh yeah, so I live with these guys. Sorry, I got way off track. And they wanted everyone to make every sound. Like they were synth snobs. So it was like if you didn't make your kick drum on like some obscure analog synth and your hi-hats, you know, individually crafted through FM, and like all if everything wasn't done from scratch, it wasn't real music. And so I got really like nervous for a while, but I realized like the same thing as you. It's like or what Sleepy Muse said, you can't live long enough to do every plugin. You don't always need to, and sometimes you just need good ingredients. So
and I would advise anyone to ignore gatekeepers.
Ignore gatekeepers.
We got some wise words
It's
here.
a bunch of shit, if you ask me.
They
Anyone
are
trying to tell you you're not a good enough producer because you use this or that or the other. Like screw that.
Yeah, for sure. All
Unless
right.
you're not coding your own DAW, like Z Fusion said, like you need to code your own DAW.
You need to
Otherwise
code your
you're
own
just
DAW
total
into
scrub.
for it to be real. Oh my God! And grow the goats, raise the goats for the goat skins of the drums. Does a Galactic Guitar? They are up next. Do they have any specific feedback, Natty?
They did not, so I guess anything goes.
Anything goes.
Anything.
Oh, that was savage. Stasis, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Oh, I forgot that they're on the delay because they're on the stream. So,
Sorry, I was late because I was on the stream. But
I just, that's exactly what I just said.
I got back.
We
No,
got
that was
back.
I loved it. Compositionally, I really liked it. Sound design wise, there's a lot that could be improved on it. It was very harsh. I saw a couple people mentioning that it's super harsh. It seemed overcompressed to me. I don't know if you're using saturators or not, but saturators are a great way to add loudness without like breaking your eardrums. There was a lot of like vibe to it though, and I think that if you just focus on helping everything sit in the space better, bringing down the compression on it, that you'll get that track to a really good spot. The synth that you had, like the ARP going on and the bass, really didn't feel like they're in the same space to me. And I don't know if that's a reverb issue or like a stereo issue, but I would take a look at that as well.
Cool. Yeah. I had the same feeling. There was a lot of like cool distorted sounds, but they were a bit out of control. So I think pulling back a bit and just doing a lot of like be really careful to like notch EQ and do really precise things to things that you're going to apply distortion to. You know, like, because I always say you have to get clean before you can get dirty. You have to clean up the frequencies you don't want before you can start adding in the distortion. So perhaps you need to go back to your original elements, take off whatever distortion you have, and just check that you don't have anything hanging around in there that's creating mud or anything like that. Other than, I liked your idea. I think it's super cool, but yeah, it was a little bit harsh on my ears. So I think that a combination of EQing before distortion and then EQing after. Another thing, don't be afraid to put multiple EQs at different stages on your track, because a lot of the time you add something and then you need to take something away. You know, you add some distortion, you create a few extra harmonics, you sculpt those out. Maybe then you put a compressor on, and then maybe then you do some EQing, because everything's, you know, like the order of your plugins really matters. So sometimes even if I'm stuck and I'm like, something is weird, but I'm not sure what, sometimes I'll like switch the compressor and the EQ and be like, you know, maybe that's the order they need to be in. And you just have to kind of like be a dummy with yourself and just be like, okay, does it have a really serious frequency problem? If so, we need to EQ it before we compress it, right? Do we need to just get the overall level up and then do tiny bits of EQing with, then we do the other way around. So maybe check the order of your plugins. Natty, anything? You muted yourself again. Natty, I mute you. You don't have to worry about muting yourself, okay? I always mute you and unmute you.
I know. I just was clicking away, so I was like, eh. Anyway, here I'd recommend referencing. You're talking about distortion. I mean, you got someone like Mick Gordon, Mick Gordon made the modern 2016 Doom soundtrack. His philosophy is literally, will it work with an amp? Shove through it. I think if you're going to be having a look at anything, his music, especially since obviously he doesn't mix his own music, I don't think. I think he just writes it and sort of composes it and does sound design stuff. But obviously he's still had to do all that sound design in a way to make it relatively easy for someone to finish tying all the knots for him. But then you could sort of, he does a lot of content online about his process, and I think if you can go there, look at some of the before and then the after and say, okay, well, you know, why does that work and how can I adapt to that? You might find that quite useful to take almost semi-literally with a track like this, because it is occupying that everything's really kind of chucking guitars but it's synths kind of angle. It's definitely a fun track, and keep working on it.
I do have a question for both of you. Regarding EQ. Do you guys typically do subtractive EQing before additive EQing, or does that sometimes change for you guys?
I always try to do subtractive EQing. Like I kind of look and just look what needs to be done. And I always say you clean up first before additive. So I think I always do subtractive EQing first. The only time I do additive EQing first is if I'm actually sound designing, if I'm making a sound and then I'm like, oh, I want to create some more. So then I might do additive EQ before taking it away. But if it's just mixing and stuff, I always take away first, because the ear's response is much better to drastic changes in low end frequencies than it is in like super high. So like if you boost something up higher versus cutting something, it obviously creates more dynamics, it creates more amplitude, so it hurts your ears more anyways. So subtractive always. Yeah.
I mean,
Maddie?
very similar response here from me. When I'm sound designing, it'll just be sort of any additive stuff. I never make it really sharp. It's usually just sort of gentle slopes, and then it might just be because I'm interested in a specific bit of the sound and just want to pull it up slightly more. But then also I'm more likely to use multi-band expansion than I am to use an EQ for that function, because I find that the result is a little bit more configurable, because you can change how it with the sort of typical compressor settings. You can change the attack time for it and the decay of that boost in a way that you can't with a standard EQ, and that can actually make it a little bit more finessed when it comes to the sound design aspect.
I love those. Thank you for answering that, because I just learned from both of you. That was really helpful. I think this song too could have used like really specific notch subtractive EQing.
Yes, exactly.
In the chain.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know what that was until probably 6 months ago. So if you don't know what it is and that was your song, then like look into that. Look at subtractive notch EQing. Look into how to dial in an EQ to find a specific tone. There's some really good videos by Multiplier about that, and I'm sure other people too, but I would look into it for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, EQing is everything. Like Skrillex, to quote his name again, it said that he could do everything. Like if he had to take all his plugins away, he just wanted like an EQ if he could only have one, because you can create harmonics, you can do very drastic things. I mean, yeah, EQ is great. You should always be using EQ. There should never be a project that does not have some kind of EQ in it. That sounds like it would sound horrible. So don't do that. Oh, amazing tips though. I could talk about EQ and compression forever. And that's the thing, is like, I think for new producers, they tend to like, people will come into our Discord and be like, what plugin do I have to get? And I'm just be like, whoa. No, you need to sit and you need to get obsessed with compression and EQ. And once you've done that, then you can play with reverbs and delays and stereo and all the other stuff. And then you can go into your fancy plugins when you feel like you really understand the concept. I think that's super important. And too many people, like, you get lured by the GUIs of like fancy plugins, like, ooh, like I was like that too. I just wanted to look at them all day. But it's really about mastering your tools. I mean, you can do stuff from basically nothing. You know, there are producers that use like Cohen Sound. They pretty much just use the default Ableton plugins for everything, because that's how they started years ago when there wasn't anything. And they did a sound design workshop for one of my master's degree classes, and I was just blown away because it was like 3 hours, 2 hours, I don't know. And the whole time it was just default Ableton plugins and automation. And I was just like you really don't need fancy plugins. And they're like some of the most incredible sound designers that I've ever seen. So amazing comments. Shouts out to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much. We are Feedback and Friends with special guest Stasis Stigma on ILBC TV. We have a bunch of concerts and challenges coming up. So if you're not already subscribe to our Twitch channel, and you can see our concerts that you can't come to live. XE Fusion is saying Flume also uses stock Ableton. Exactly. That's wild, right? So we have a concert coming up in Bristol on July 6th. We have the She Knows Tech round in New York from the Berkeley Power Station in August. That's going to be on August 14th. We're going to have a virtual, completely online round with some just amazing contestants that are going to have to remote in. And then we're going to have the finals in Barcelona as part of the Future Music Forum. I'm really excited. Next up, we have Aiden. Did Aiden want to know anything in specific?
They said, just wanting to show something new. I produced the instrumental, and Emmy, I assume it's their songwriting partner, recorded the vocals. Our goal was to make a trippy, intense, hyper-pop trap banger.
Oh.
Looking for any tips on marrying the trap sound with obscure electronic genres, jungle, garage, rave, etc. This demo will probably be released as is, but the feedback is still welcome.
All right.
I can't do Aiden's sexy voice. So
I know, it's true. He does have a very sexy voice. It's a good thing that he sings and shares it with all of us.
Let's go. Let's do it. Booty so big.
shake, you shake that ass like it's nothing. I really shouldn't, but I do it though. I want my checks and I get them home. She give me cookies, she be my sugar dough. She looking at me cause she wanna roll. I got my Velveeta in my flippy floppies. She be on my lap, she wanna go on toppy. Call her queen, she be my lady. I tell her to relax, I'm just a little faded. I got some ash on my bathrobe bucket. I got the stash, but I'm grilled 200. Well, she got other plans, so dance bucket. Well, she got other plans, so dance bucket. Cause her booty's so big, she shake that ass like it's nothing. I really shouldn't, but I do it though. I want my checks and I get them home. She give me cookies, she be my sugar dough. She looking at me cause she wanna roll. Trashing at my hotel room on my black card. Yeah, she be my groupie, but I treat her like a rock star. Runs up on my neck, damn, she can snowboard, tripping on. I can be a samurai, deathmatch, cage spot. Killing the bottomies, magical sodomies. Hit from the back, I redeem it economy. I am a prodigy, put you under a spot. Girl, I'm a penny, a pussy, you wish him well. K.O. on the floor like J-Lo. Crisp City, rock hole to get my bread. I really shouldn't, but I do it though. I want my checks and I get them home. She give me cookies, she be my sugar dough. She looking at me cause she wanna roll. She said, Emmy, you're so pretty, can I get your number? You know this cunnilingus gonna make a dumber. See you crying cause you know I wouldn't fucking wanna. You say that you can fuck her, all you did was fucking hump her. So sit down, son, I'm a silver set, I'm a golden one. Yeah, you're playing chess, I'm just having fun. I'm a lunatic, I'm a loaded gun. I'm a dry ass pill you don't wanna swallow. I'm a triple threat when I'm feeling hollow. I'm a bad bitch act you don't wanna fall. I'm Tarzan, I'm a supermodel. I really shouldn't, but I do it though. I want my checks and I get them home. She give me cookies, she be my sugar dough. She looking at me cause she wanna roll. Okay, I just wanna okay, throw me back again cause I want.
Yes, I love this. This finally something I feel like I'm really got a lot of ideas on. Such a cool thing to always hear you experimenting with new styles. I really like that this has a just different vibe. As Chase Dobson is saying, it's not cookie cutter. It's really quite cool. I would really focus on a couple things. A lot of people have said the 808. Yeah, the 808 has to like punch you in the chest. I would try like playing with your side chain a lot. One thing I don't know if you've had the chance to check out is Duck Buddy, which is a free Max for Live device made by Slink. And Duck Buddy is just a side chain. It's kind of like a kickstart type of plugin. It's really clean. It's instead of just using a compressor to side chain, you can just draw really cool envelopes, and you can play with that to make it slap even more. So I would also like notch out some of the distortions so that you can have like more of a rich sub poke through, and then have that kind of distorted stuff be like the top end, and maybe even like spread it, do some metallic, do some granular stuff with it. You know, I think that would be really cool. Like take the top end and make some really weird stuff, and then cut that up and use it for like micro edits and transitions. For me, another thing, the drums, they were punchy, but like for the hybrid trap kind of and hyper pop thing, both, they really need to like punch in a warmer way. Like I wanted to hear kind of a knock. I don't know if you've ever checked out like Decap and Decap's drums that knock sample packs, but he literally makes drums that knock super hard, and they're really, I kind of want to hear like a clicky rim shotty, like a like with that, but like with heavier, like hollow kind of, I really just want it to hit me in a certain way. So I would kind of focus on thickening the kick, snare, and 808 and playing with the sidechain relationship between that. And then for the vocals to be even more in that hyperpop thing, I might try doing something like vocal synth or weird extreme auto tuning just in parts. And like, I love that dynamic of that cool rap, but you could also like do some cool automation into some weird hyper mega auto-tune mechanical kind of things, because hyperpop has a lot of that. I really like Sophie's drum samples, RIP. They're really clangy and thick, and I think that just having that extra thickness to the mix and very strategic sidechain envelope will do a lot of the work in this style, because you have really cool vocals and you have a really original concept. And Chase is saying Sound Toys Little Altar Boy for vocal effects. Yeah, totally. That'd be really cool. Stasis, what are your thoughts?
Little Altar Boy is one of my favorite presets. It's so great. Or plugins, excuse me. It has great presets too, but it's a good plugin. I really like the track. There were a couple of things that I would have changed to make it something I would want to listen to again. And it felt like the vocals and a lot of the sounds in the track were on this wall of being like, here's like really clean in your face and here's like really distorted. And I think you got to pick a side on it if it were me. I personally would love like a vocal that was more present for that type of sound. Because the vocal sounds really good. Distorting it kind of takes away, I think, a little bit from, obviously this is totally personal opinion, but it kind of takes away from what the song could be by having it so heavily distorted. And there's and I've mentioned this a couple times on this stream, but a spatial issue in the song of like some of the instruments sound like they're like they have the reverb, they're sitting in this space, and then there will be like something like a synthesizer that will come in that is not sitting in that same space and is really abrupt and kind of jarring to hear something that has like no reverb or delay on it come in when you've created this sound stage basically. But I freaking loved it. It's great.
Natty?
I mean, I agree with Chase here in the Twitch chat. Keep the distortion. It's rude and so good. I mean, I feel like one of the as well that would be kind of cool to hear would be the vocals themselves getting more shouty in places. Like, not just more extreme in vocal effects, but just sort of more clearly angry. I mean, especially when it's like some of the language in this track is very explicit. But sometimes I feel like Emmy is holding back a little bit on expressing that in a way that's sort of like, I am pissed off and screw you. You know, it's almost like you're too nice. If you don't let your angry, evil Karen out, it's fine.
Yeah, no, some people are saying they like the distortion. I would actually kind of try and do a bit of a medium. I would put maybe a clean take on top and cut like really like low pass it quite high up and just keep the ASMR part of like the dry vocal and then maybe blend in with the distorted vocal. I think that you can in this case have your cake and eat it too. You can have the aggressive distortion and also like still get like that up close clarity that will also help with people understanding the lyrics as well. So usually that can be a good compromise, but it's super.
Forget what I said and listen to Isha. That's spot on. I think that's exactly what I was talking about. Like the vocal needs to be more present, but I think the distortion, like that'll take it from that wall situation. That'll put it in both camps and make it a little better.
Yeah. I mean, it's a balance thing, and I think it's really cool. Really cool new direction. Congratulations on your new sound, Mr. Iden. Next up, sometimes I'd like to pretend I'm a bot. It's fun. Maybe I am. There has been questions a few times. Is there any? Is this artist called Nightmare, Nathaniel?
Well, they said their artist name is Load Us. I think the song is just called Nightmare.
Okay.
Load _ U. Is it Load _ US or Load Us or Lotus? Like Lotus. Flat like Lotus.
Lotus Upus.
I bet it's Lotus.
Looking for help mastering, as I think that is my biggest trouble area. It's been lightly mastered, so anything to help improve this song would be much appreciated.
Okay, it's Lotus. Okay, great. Wow, I did not expect that at all. And that was really, really original and really, really cool. And thank you. It's so nice to just hear experimental stuff like that. We don't get that as often. And I really, really love it and appreciate it. Yeah, I think that the biggest thing has already been said in the chat is that I would go back and do some EQing on the mix of each instrument before mastering it, says Nick Beeman. And absolutely correct, because I think that obviously you can tell that you lightly mastered it. It's definitely not over sausaged. It might be under sausaged. That's totally a word. I didn't just make that up. It's so I think that maybe
Into the under sausage.
EQing will give you a lot of that headroom back to master it, because when you EQ out, notch EQ was just mentioned by Stasis. When you EQ out those really painful frequencies, you've just created a bunch more dynamic range, a bunch more space for amplitude, and then you can start compressing the overall mix and do stuff on the buses once the individual elements are contained like that. Dynamic EQ. I guess we need a dynamic EQ emoji. Bako Bibizo is going to make us some emojis, so I think dynamic EQ would be another good one, because we talk about it so much. But for those of you that it might be new to, it's EQ that is triggered by frequencies exceeding a specific threshold. So it's almost like compression, but it's actually expansion because it gives you dynamic range back. So if you are doing anything melodic, especially like vocals or synths, as your notes move up and down the scale, the frequency balance of them will change just by virtue of the fact that it's a different note. So maybe if you've ever had a synth where just one specific note is really painful, dynamic EQ can help with that because it will automatically pull it back when that problematic note happens. So yeah, I thought that was super great. And I think that just really, really playing with EQ and learning like to love it and dealing with different types of EQ. You can even do like mid-side EQs and play with the stereo field because you have such an interesting landscape. I think it's worth really exploring tools to preserve the magic of the atmosphere and expand it further. See what I did there? Natty.
I mean, for me as well, I take a little bit of care with how you use your gated snares. I mean, obviously, gated snares are a weird one because some people really love them and some people really hate them. And obviously, you're not going to win over the latter with your choice here. But also, I feel like you could do parallel processing on that snare because it feels like you've just washed all the transient out. And while in certain spaces of your track, like more of the breakdowns, I feel that's appropriate. When you're trying to sort of have the heavier bits, it means you're kind of just drowning your snare out. And it needs some of that snapback to really hit us in the face a little bit with your snare, because it's like not and it makes it harder to mix when it's got such a long extended tail all the time.
It's true. It does. Yeah, dynamic EQ. People want to go into... Did we do TDR Nova as the plugin of the week already? I feel like we did.
We did, but at this rate we'll do it once a year.
Once a year.
Or every 6 months. Just
well, you know what I don't usually show. I'd rather show the TDR Nova because it's free, but then it might also be interesting since we have already done that to talk about like an EQ that isn't free that also does dynamic EQ, such as Pro Q. So I'm gonna.
People swear by Pro Q.
Yes. So let's go. Sorry, I haven't done this plugin of the week, so you can see my messy screen with visuals. Plugin of the week. So instead of being a plugin of the week, because I don't really want to just push Pro Q, I know it's like a really expensive EQ. We're just going to talk about maybe technique of the week. So plugin of the week is really technique, and we're just going to use the Pro Q on that. So again, I use my own samples all the time. It's mostly just because I know them really well, but I'm going to just take a loop from my pack. So it's something dynamic with a lot of notes. Okay. So, and by the way, I used I Wish and Manipulator and a lot of Polyverse plugins to make all these loops. But yeah, with a dynamic EQ, if you do have Pro Q, you might not even know that it has this. But basically, when you make an EQ point, you say make dynamic, and then it's basically a case of setting the amount of threshold. And it's actually more precise in TDR Nova. So maybe I'll show you them both side by side, because TDR Nova is free and we love free. So I actually have the paid version, which gives you a couple extra bands, but let's just, for comparison, do it through TDR Nova. And we're just gonna like pull this down a bit. So oh god, the screen is so dim and I don't care about it. So with TDR Nova, the first thing you gotta get out of the way. First thing you gotta get out of the way is finding out where the hell it appears on your other screen. Now we got that out of the way. The second thing is you have to turn the analyzer on. And obviously, like when I sing higher notes, there's more higher frequencies. So let's just say that it's piercing, because it's not, because I spent a hell of a long time making this sample pack so that nothing was piercing. Yeah, Airlift, this is from my sample pack Intonations, which is on Splice now and Black Octopus. So with a dynamic EQ, TDR Nova, I don't even have to actually apply gain reduction or like no cutting or boosting. I don't even need to touch this. As soon as I click on it, you have these controls that are a lot like a compressor. So you have threshold, which is the point where it starts working. You have the ratio, which is the amount that it reduces. And then you have Q. But as you can see, right now this is like quite a lot. So with dynamic EQ, I like to be very gentle, set the threshold quite high to start. But you can see how the EQ is behaving dynamically. It's not universally reducing gain. It's only when I hit certain notes. So that C.
Gain IQ by using dynamic EQ.
You can see that C, which is basically the frequency I'm at, every time I hit that, like, and I can barely talk because I have not drank enough water today, let alone sing. But that's what I sound like when I can sing good and I'm drinking water. But you can see that it's reducing more, right? And all these other EQ points, they are not activated, so they're not doing anything. But if I turn the threshold on, start fiddling, there's also attack and release. You can have the weird synth noise that's too annoying at only one note controlled. You can also, pro tip, you can side chain this. So this is really powerful because let's say the problem of having a lot of vocal layers and you want to make space for all of them, you could have like a stack of chorus vocals and then you could have them sidechain to another vocal so that as soon as that lead vocal hits, all this like chorusy vocals are pulled down in frequency. Just so if, like the way I would use that is, let's say, okay, let's go external sidechain and then we can sidechain right here. So we can just sidechain it to another loop. So this is kind of like how to get two loops to play nice. So because I'm awesome, all of these are tagged with, oh, that was a G. So let's find another G. No. Okay, whatever, that one. So we can sidechain this one to that one. And now I just happen to know that my voice is very strong in around like 800 hertz because I've been working with it for a long time. I've actually had it my whole life. So I'm going to set it here around 800 to reduce, and I'm going to like narrow the Q and sidechain it to the other vocals. So now this vocal is going to kick the other one out of the way dynamically, not like a compressor, but just in that frequency where it sits most. So. Is it not even sidechaining? Why is it not working? Am I being dumb? I'm doing something dumb. Sidechain. Am I sidechaining to itself or something? Alright, this is one of those things where I'll probably figure it out at like 3 in the morning. No, it's sidechaining to 3. Weird. It's not working. I wonder if I use the paid one, if it will work. Because I usually use the paid one. I don't use the free one. Let me just try. Because, yeah, I never use the free one. So let's just do the same thing and see. Because I think it is a free version. I mean, it's there, but I just don't know. So let's just check that out. Let's do that again. Yeah.
I use the free one.
Do you sidechain? Do you do externals?
Yeah.
Does it work? Because I don't know why that's what I always. So
it could be just a quirk of Ableton right at the moment. But if you've got some other routing going on,
I do have a crap load of audio routing going on because of the stream. So.
I'm not hearing the second loop at all, though.
Oh, well, that could be why. Oh, that's it. I'm a real dummy because I didn't press play on the clip. There we go. Dummy of the week. It's always like that when you show people stuff. Good thing I do not care about being stupid. Hold on. Let me just undo and go back to the free one. Bum, ba-dum. I was like, I know I'm doing something wrong, but it's because I'm not playing the clip. And that's real loud. Let me take that down a bit. Yeah, now it's really working. And this is very extreme, right? But you can see how that would work. You can see how that would work if you had, like, say, a lead vocal versus a bunch of backing vocals and you wanted to kind of cut through the mix, right? So I would probably not do it that extreme, but... And you can see how it gets extreme quick. So I would set the threshold high, and I would maybe make the attack a little bit longer because it's a vocal. Right? But it's just a nice way of creating space. So, anyways, thanks for watching me have my moment of the week, but we all do it. And let me just
rename the segment to Derp of the Week.
Derp of the Week. It wasn't playing the audio. Okay. Let me get back to Thank you for pointing that out. That was exactly what the problem was. Okay, so next up we have Voyardee. Is there any specific feedback that they would like?
General mixing advice on a track. Listening to it way too much, so a nice fresh set of ears would be helpful.
Nice
6
set,
ears.
fresh set, 6 ears.
Plus all the
Yes,
people
nice
watching.
set, fresh set.
Nice.
Nice set of fresh set.
Oh boy, that snare. I really love the idea and I love the concept. I was unfortunately being very distracted by how not just loud but piercing that snare was. My headphones are the Sennheiser HD 800s. They're really nice. They are a bit high sensitive, but I am actually using SonarWorks now to listen through them, so they have been flattened, and that was just, it was hurting me. I had to turn it down. So I would definitely look at both the volume and the EQ of your snare. And Kurtibir also said maybe try the snare would sound better with a subtle attack reduction. So maybe some transient shaping on that to give it both more body and smooth it out a little bit. But I really liked the idea and the melodies. I also agree with the chat that some of the pads, they could be filtered a little bit. They could be given some shape. So I think all these things would just really give you a nice polish. Stasis, what were your thoughts?
I really like that. I mean, very future bass vibey, which is what I love. I could have used a lot more sub in the future, like the chords, the pulsing chords you had in the drops. I felt like the sub was lacking, and there was some high-end piercing stuff going on. There was also, I mentioned it in the chat too, but there was a moment where you like filtered out the drums, but you didn't filter out the distortion that was on the drums. So I would make sure if you're going to filter out an element of the song, make sure you filter out any bus or group that is running that element as well. Just put the filter on the element, unless you, I guess, if you had it chained to two different places, then that would be a problem too. But yeah, just make sure you're being consistent with the sounds. But it was a great feel. I love the feel of the track.
I also don't. While I think the overall melodic feel was good, I feel like you're in a place where you're kind of trying to have your cake and eat it too. I mean, the snare, in some songs that really sort of clicky, snappy snare can really work. I don't think this is the case where it does. And then you've got your really smooth synth sounds and your 8-bitty sounds, and I kind of get what you're trying to do, sort of play this old sort of video game sound against the modern EDM, but as of right now, I'm not sure that the actual union of them is complete. I mean, it's a case of maybe either use more old school downsampling on other sounds, and you can have it so that sort of becomes a part of a push and pull effect, where they're gradually getting more granulated and weird, or you try and smooth your 8-bit sounds out more and go the other way, sort of just really hone in on that high-end EDM kawaii aesthetic, because that's right now I'm not quite sure it's sitting in the space it needs to really say yes, this is the track it is, and you know, accept it, deal with it. Right now it's sort of almost unintentionally confused.
Unintentionally confused.
I know that sounds harsh, but I mean, I really do like what you're doing with the arrangement. It's mainly just tweaking your sound design a little bit, just to really nail your intention home.
Nail it. He said nailed it.
Nailed it.
Oh.
Are you gonna do a
we need to do a natty sample pack, like exclusive, just from Feedback
absolutely.
and Friends. Like, we have had so many moments now, Nathaniel, where your wonderful spoken vocal range has really showed itself. Hi, Chi, up next. Did he have anything to say to us?
Arrangement, anything that comes to mind. Standard producer disclaimer.
Oh.
Not finished. Work in progress, etc.
Oh, Friends, that's my thing. Fly. I love the vibe of this. I like that the working title is Summer Cheese. It's definitely like that summer vibes. I like the classic references. I do think it needs just kind of more like it's really nice to have that piano breakdown, but I want to hear like soaring textures. I would put like a Valhalla shimmer and I would shimmer the F out of that breakdown and automate it, or something like Supermassive too. Any of these really long surreal delays that are super experimental that you can kind of automate, just create a little more like air and a little bit more space. And I could almost hear a very high, sort of almost like glide signy kind of lead on top of the chords, so like that's subtle, so it doesn't like take the complete focus, but is almost like a counterpoint to the chords and almost going up, like almost like a like something like that, just to create a little bit of a balance, because right now there's something still a little bit backgroundy about it, so I think it needs a little bit extra in just to pull it together. And then the same thing goes for the sort of intro and the outro, is having a little more texture to it, because it's got a really nostalgic vibe, and now I think you need to add some like really pristine, crinkly, sprinkly like textures to it on my points. Natty, thoughts?
I feel like my biggest complaint is during your breakdown before you return to your breakbeats. There was this sort of really static chord sound. I think it was made out of your piano again, still there. But I mean, because it was so static, it almost felt disconnected once you reintroduced your breakbeats. I feel like you should maybe play with either revoicing it a bit as you go along, or pitch shifting it a bit, or something, just to sort of give it a little bit more modulation, so that then rather than just having it sort of repeat itself over and over again and then just sort of fade out and then something new coming in. I feel like you can make that transition more deliberate, effectively. Everything else is kind of working for me. It was just that one moment where I was just like, Humst. So, Stasis, you seem like you were vibing out a bit to it. So what do you think about this?
I liked it a lot. I don't know if my mic's too loud now. I turned it up a bit, but
I can turn it. Yeah.
Oh well.
You're good.
If you guys in the chat say it's too loud, I'll turn it back down.
I think so.
I really enjoyed it. The two things in the song I wasn't a fan of were the like that floppy acid synth you had going on, because it felt like it was out of tune. Not so much that the sound itself wasn't working for me, it just felt out of tune, and I don't know if that was because it was actually out of tune, or there's a resonance going on that's not the right frequency in the reverb you're using. One of those two things I would look at. And then the race car, man. The race car. Every time I just started cracking up, because it didn't, while I think that sounds a great sound, I think it didn't feel like it was in the same space because of the reverb and it was very dry compared to the rest of your song, which felt very wet. So if you want it in there and you want it to be super abrupt and that's just what you're going for, then you nailed it. But if you wanted it to be more of a give someone a smile instead of make them like kind of jump back, then I would put some effects on it.
You're getting run over. Ah!
Yeah. It did. I mean, it went from like this like really cool vibe to like, I think somebody mentioned like, I'm selecting my racer.
I'm selecting my eraser.
Selecting my car.
Car selector. No. All right. Cool track though. Really nice vibes. Yeah. Thank you everybody for being part of our amazing community. Thank you for your beautiful tracks. There's been, as always, so much great music tonight. And thanks to Stasis Stigma. We got Bushloft up next. Anything from our friend Bushloft, Nathaniel?
Just anything that sticks out to us.
Right. Anything that sticks out. All right. okay. That was very
That
different.
disappeared.
Natty, I'll let you go first on this one.
I mean, I'm definitely in agreement with Schnitty here in the comments. The water sample being a bit too lo-fi compared to the rest. I mean, it might even be a case of perhaps layering multiple water samples in. So you got the sort of bubbly water sample you've got now, and then you have a sort of cleaner wave sample. So it's like or something. I was a little bit disappointed that it sort of just ended. I mean, you seemed like you were going in sort of, I don't know, like a Japanese movie kind of direction with it. Something like Studio Ghibli or whatever, with all the harps and the subtle piano notes and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't really going in a hip hop direction so much as a scoring direction. And maybe a key of embracing it and then looping back down and starting resampling yourself. So you've sort of built up this, okay, this could be a lo-fi hip-hop track, now it's something different, and then you come back round and resample yourself to the point where you sort of reintegrate the beat aspect into it. And I think that could be really cool in the arrangement here to give it a distinct journey and identity. As it is right now, as far as mixdown stuff, it's really hard to give feedback on something like this because it's like mixing doesn't matter if you don't have the full song and context of that song. And right now, I'm not sure it's worth worrying about. Just finish the piece, work out what it needs to do and what it needs to say, and then come back afterwards and worry about that stuff. Well, do you listen to chill, lo-fi down-tempo stuff, Stasis?
I love lo-fi hip-hop stuff. I absolutely love it. But you know what? Pick a lane, bro. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be lo-fi or you're gonna be anime music? I'm just kidding. No, those are two of my favorite genres. I don't listen to anime soundtracks and stuff, but geez, if the soundtrack from Laputa, Castle in the Sky, comes on or something, I freak out. It's so good. So I definitely loved both the elements. But I do think it needs to be more cohesive, make a creative choice and go for that. This might seem unrelated to a lot of y'all, but for a long time I did comedy improv stuff. And one of the things you have to learn in there is once you make a choice, you have to stick to that choice for the rest of the scene that you're in. And that is also true in music. I feel like you have to make a choice for the song that you're working on and go for it. Don't hold back or don't feel like you have to match it to something else or bring in these other elements. Just make that choice and stick to that choice and go really hard at it.
Did you do comedy improv wearing that mask?
No, it was in the dark. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about this as you do. I think cohesion, it's got really cool elements to it, but obviously I think even though it's lo-fi, you still need to mix it carefully. And the snare kind of sticks out a little bit for me. It's not so much about cleaning it up per se, because I know it's lo-fi. It's more just balancing it out and still giving it some body. I think it could use just a little bit more. So I would play with some parallel processing, just experiment with maybe putting some techniques that are normally used to make it clean and mixing them in with the sort of distorted lo-fi elements and finding that happy medium. Just to give it more power in the mix, and balance and clarity and all the things, right? So balancing out the second part with the first part as well. So there's definitely some spikes and stuff. Yeah. That was a really cool interlude, though. We don't get a lot of chill music, and it's always very lovely when we do. It gives me a nice moment. Next up, we have Vanished. And did they have any specific requests, Natty?
Just a second. Looking for song structure and mixing tips.
Song structure and mixing. All right. sorry. So I don't know why I was trying to place the other one and it was not working. Let me do it again. SoundCloud's being funny.
I heard you call, I'm reaching out to feel alive, to make you mine. And now I won't be wondering why you found a way to show me all my light. So now we go all the way to the midnight hour. All the way we go, we go. All the way, we're gonna fly out and run it back until the midnight hour. Till the midnight hour. Till the midnight hour. We're gonna fly out and run it back until the midnight hour. Heard you call, I'm reaching out to feel alive, to make you mine. And now I won't be wondering why you found a way to show me all my light. So now we go all the way to the midnight hour. All the way we go, we go. All the way, we're gonna fly out and run it back until the midnight hour. Till the midnight hour. Till the midnight hour. We're gonna fly out and run it back until the midnight hour.
Wow. Vanish, I feel like this is some like super seasoned industry professional's secret SoundCloud account because it has 160 followers. There's no way that you are not like a professional. I mean, I have no feedback except it's really, really great. It's a total vibe. It's like satisfies what you expect to hear, but in a really like quirky, cool way. Like the mix in my headphones sounds like knocking and really rich, and yeah, I love it. Stasis.
Sorry, I was muted. Now I'm not muted anymore. Mix wise and instrument choice and all that stuff, spot on. You asked about song composition. I would make some changes compositionally. So you have your first. I wrote these notes down just like while I was listening to make sure I was following along. But you have your first, your A, your verse, and then you have a bridge or a chorus, and then you have a hook, and then you have a long drop, followed by a breakdown that's really beat heavy before it goes into verse 2. And I would look at that. I think anybody who's into EDM is going to be okay with that. Anyone who's not that's going to keep that song from going more mainstream at all, in my opinion, because the general population wants hook, or like bridge, chorus, maybe a hook, and then maybe a drop. The drop was like 16 bars, and it doesn't need to be 16 bars if you're looking for something that gets to the point a little faster. But the general vibe of the song is freaking killer. I think it's just like you could take it to that next level from being something that's like, oh, I'd like to listen to this, to something like, damn, that flows and it's like the perfect amount of time. I think it's a little too long right now, in my opinion.
Good point. I'm definitely not the best to advise on that because I am like the most like weirdly like non-commercial. When I make pop stuff, I really have to like sit there and formulate it because I like being weird. So yeah, listen to Stasis on that one, but I freaking love it. Natty?
I find it hard to cater to the whole pops medium as well, especially right now where everything's like, it must be working for a TikTok 30-second video or shorter.
I know.
And I mean, so I find that that question always a debate, an internal debate. And I mean, production-wise, you nailed it. I'm very interested to see who the vocalist was. If it's you, great job. I mean, if it's someone else, I'd be very curious to know where you got, where you reached out to them. Sort of, maybe if you're in the chat, tell us a story a bit about this track because I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, Vanished Music just said, I received feedback from Music Records. They also said it's too long. So yeah, I mean, commercially, like, for sure. It depends what your objective is, right? Like, again, like, there's probably an underground label that will dig it and release it. But if you are trying to be big, which a lot of people understandably are, then, you might want to go that way. If you're just like me and you're just totally, like, weird and incapable of doing that, then go your way and release on quirky underground labels.
I think you could, honestly, if you had to just like do some quick slashes, like cut the drop in half, that the beat heavy breakdown or like second verse, I don't know what I would just cut that out, and then you're gonna have closer to like what an industry standard song, like a 3-minute, 4-minute song would be at.
That 3-minute radio edit. Woo.
Gotta love radio edits.
Yeah, it really just depends on your objective. Stick to your vision, whatever it is. If it's to be commercial, do that. If you want to be weird and you don't care, do that. But great vibes. We have next up Nathan Vandenberg. Any comments from them about what we're about to hear?
Almost finished this.
Oh,
was the comment.
That's
a very short comment. Almost finished this.
Almost finished this.
I love Nathan's comment here.
hypnotic is if I like forget to turn it off after 3 minutes and I forget to even go back from my live visual screen. So I got all tripped out doing this Volta visuals to your song, Nathan. I actually really enjoyed that. Like, this is not my style, but I find it very pleasing to listen to. I think you have a good mixing ability. I really, really, really like that vocal. I think that like I didn't like the track as much until the vocal came in. I felt like the breathiness and like the tone of it is the perfect sort of antidote to the rest of your sounds. Like, it balances it out really, really nicely. But like others have said in the chat, it could use a little bit more almost breaking up in a sense. It feels a bit static. And so, Stasis, how did you feel about that?
I'm still tapping my feet to it because it's a great vibe. It's a really, really good vibe. It was a little, I don't know if this is just me, but it felt really loud in the mix, like too loud. I had to turn it down.
It's pretty loud, yeah.
So maybe consider that. You don't want to hurt anyone's ears with your tracks. The vibe of it is great. There was one where there was like a breakdown and then the beat was going to come back in. And like I felt like it was gonna hit at a certain spot, and so I like went to bob my head, and then it didn't hit right then, and so I was really disappointed. So I don't know. I mean, obviously you always want to follow your vision too, but you want to match what people are gonna expect to hear with just enough. Like, you want to have something I think that people will anticipate, but will also be interested by for listening pleasure, I guess. The ear candy was great on this track. I feel like there was really good high-end stuff going on. Oh man, I love the ear candy. Can I just say it again and you can do the animation again? Ear candy. Yes. That high-end ASMR ear candy. Love it. So great. Nathan, I freaking love your stuff though. That was a fun track. The only other note I have is the vocal sample. And I couldn't tell if I wasn't paying enough attention to note to what the sample was doing, but there was like a sample at the beginning of the track that it came in, and the groove or like when she was hitting the notes didn't match up with the music, and that was kind of jarring to me. Later in the track, I loved the sample, so there was something in like the first time the voice came in that didn't jive for me.
Interesting. Natty?
I mean, I'm not sure whether it does need an actual lead element like James Slack is suggesting, but if you were to add one, I mean, he suggests using maybe some plucks, really, really thick and nasty plucks as he calls them. I'm thinking maybe you lean more on the vocal aspect and create a vocal synth kind of thing. Sort of like, well, you got Porter Robinson's alternate alias, Virtual Self. I mean, I'm not sure I like those songs as much, but I really like his use of vocal synths there, because it sort of had a really ethereal and almost haunted quality to those tracks. That is something that I've actually borrowed from myself a little bit, because I thought those sounds just really cool. And it would sort of continue matching the trance effect that you've got going on with the gates later on in the track. It'd sort of just keep that consistency, because those tracks definitely do benefit from being really consistent and steady, and you don't want to throw the listener off at all with a completely new sound. But I mean, yeah, I think generally as it stands, it does work. I mean, anything more would just be, how much more patience do you have to continue tweaking it before going mad?
We're gonna move on to Jonah K. How many more do we have left, Natty? We must be getting down.
We've got about 5 left.
All right, let's go. Let's get cracking with Jonah K. Did they have any specific feedback request?
Anything that we notice, keeping in mind the kind of song it is. It's a pop song, I guess. Context is important. It's public on SoundCloud but not released because I'm saving up for an album. Thank you in advance.
Wonderful.
sunshine isn't fun. So long we've gone without hearing both our names. Still the phone goes off, but it doesn't ring the same. A little argument that's not worth making. I don't wanna pick up your calls. I don't wanna pick up your calls. It's just an argument that's not worth making. I don't wanna hear the phone, 'cause it doesn't ring the same. Oh, oh. I know that you had a terrible year, so come on back and find the ones you hold dear. Come on back and find the ones you hold dear. You forgot what keeps you sane, the ones you hold dear. A little argument that's not worth making. I don't wanna pick up your calls. I don't wanna pick up your calls. It's just an argument that's not worth making. I don't wanna hear the phone, 'cause it doesn't ring the same. Oh, oh.
Oh, thank you so much, Jonah. That was so much fun. I love this. Like, I love your idea. I love your like personality, which I think really comes through in this track. Like, really made me feel good. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I think that just in terms of the arrangement, in terms of the idea, you are solid. You are there. This is a great track. Now I think it's just in the details, you know, dare I say, air.
Ear candy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, just little, you have such good bones to this track. Now, like, go crazy and just do some tiny little pieces, some little edits. Really play with your voice. Bring it forward a bit, you know? It's beautiful. It's great. It's got a great vibe to it. Bring it up in the mix a little bit. Maybe compress it a little bit more and then add some air so that you get a more intimate, closer up vibe. It's really, really it's just a beautiful energy that you have. I can't say enough, and I think it's going to be great. But I think just really fixing the vocal mix, warming up that bass line, you know, just adding in general, warming up and bringing things forward in the mix is just, I would say, all around. And you have a solid idea. Stasis, what did you think?
I freaking loved it. It was like straight up 80s vibe and for me. And I mean, I can be listening to Excision and then the next track will be like Funky Town. And I love the spread of genres that are out there, but that song just spoke to me in a lot of ways. Was that his voice? Was that Jonah's voice?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Jonah, I know you're here in the chat, so maybe you can tell us. I don't know if you are able to like look at anything in the vocals or not. But there were a couple of parts in the vocals that were a little jarring to me. Like, you didn't have it very auto-tuned, or it didn't sound very auto-tuned at like certain parts in the song. And then like later in the song, like in the second half, there was like an auto-tuned section that came in, that was a little jarring just because it wasn't consistent. But you're responsible for every production stage. I love it. I love it. a man after my own heart. So when you were saying, I don't want to pick up I think it was pause, clause or something. I couldn't really tell what that was. That phrase just didn't work for me because of the timing and like the melody choice right there. So I would change that. I would consider changing. I mean, this is my own opinion, so do whatever you want with it. But
Subjective is not objective.
yes.
Captain Obvious.
And I would bring the vocal mix forward a lot more. I would have, so what I would do if I were in the position of that, like where you are in the production of that song, I would duplicate the vocal track. I would turn the second duplicated track way down, but I would way oversaturate it. And I would add a delay or a reverb I would add a lot more reverb on the track and put the pre-delay up quite a bit because you want it to be a lot more forward than where it is right now, I think. But it is a great song. I totally playlist that all day.
Playlist that. What about you, Natty? Would you playlist that?
Maybe. It reminds me, in places I was like, oh, this sounds like one thing, and then it sounds like another thing. At the start, it was sort of gave me a Daft Punk vibe, you know, when they did their whole, we're doing their last album, what turned out to be their last album, Random Access Memories. They were like, yeah, we're going to revisit all those 80s sounds, and we're going to get a full orchestra and all live instrumentation, but it's still sort of house music. That was sort of what the intro started with, and then you had the vocals, and I was like, okay, this is kind of leaning on the old school, British sort of stuff, you know, where it was all loose and spoken and sort of, it was pop, but it was sort of still leaning on that old school punk edge a little bit. And then you sort of introduced a lot of the little synthy bits, and I was like, okay, I can hear some Men at Work, that kind of vibe in there too, and that's all very fun to me. And I feel like once you introduced the sort of pitch correction, you almost lost that a bit, and maybe going back over your vocal takes and saying, okay, how can I just get a really solid, mostly spoken take would actually benefit what you're trying to do here more than trying to sing it. I think not everything vocal needs to be sung, it's okay. And I think that this, because your groove is kind of carrying everything else all along, the only thing your voice needs to do is tell the story. You don't need to add more complications on top of it.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful in this simplicity too. So really, really good stuff, Jonah. Amazing. Next up, we got Galaxy with a track called Tristan's Theme. Anything we should know about this, Nathaniel?
It was just a second. Tristan's Theme. There we go. It doesn't really have a proper name yet. It's just sort of a main theme for one of my original characters, Tristan. He's a very vulgar mad scientist who's secretly an android. Warning, the song is currently not mixed. I suck at mixing. Stasis Sigma might be secretly an android too. We'll never know.
It's true. I guess the mask died. Is it? I just hope you're still alive in there.
I haven't charged myself in a while.
Damn, that ended very, very surprising. I wasn't even ready for that. Really, really fun story. I see the mad scientist android. I really see it I think you've really captured the spirit of that. And even for being unmixed, it sounds pretty good. I think in general you have like the right elements, and just obviously just go in and mix it, refine it, do some of the basic things, and obviously expand it further. It was only a minute long, so I definitely want to hear what comes next. So, Natty, what did you think?
I mean, that's always the question as well. Like, if in this case, since a theme for an original character suggests that it's not associated with any particular output or medium yet, which then means that, yeah, this bit could be the sort of core motif, but then if you're going to expand it, what you're looking at is maybe, like an orchestral suite kind of concept where you start taking it apart and deconstructing it, and if you've got other characters, look at the motifs you're building for them in whatever story you're telling, and see if you can start seeding their relationships in the piece too. There are usually little references and things you can do to yourself, like, when you combine leitmotifs, and maybe there's a really specific chord progression that's more associated with one character than another, and you can sort of see whether you can combine the two a little bit and really make your storytelling shine in that way. It's in scoring they often consider it romantic scoring. You've got the sort of modern minimalist Hans Zimmer stuff, and then you've got the old school Hans Zimmer, everyone's got a motif kind of deal. And this is definitely obviously leaning towards that old school approach. So, really have a look at everything else you're doing in this, whatever it is you're building here, and say, okay, well, what can I steal from those other bits?
Stasis?
Have you ever tried to make something like this, Stasis?
Yes. I don't really have any of this public, but I make a lot of fantasy music for our D&D group because it's super fun. So I love character and situation and like storytelling songs. That's like a big thing for me. Which I thought this did a great job. I could totally see like Dr. Eggman in this song. So it was great. I would definitely look at side chaining on your drums. It sounded like maybe I'm wrong, but it sounded like there wasn't any side chaining going on, and that is like basic stuff that you got to have on any song that's going to be electronic-y to get those drums to punch through a little bit more. I love like retro vibes and stuff, but when you make something that's really retro, that doesn't mean that you have to like stick in that genre only, or in those techniques only. Like you don't have to be using like a synthesizer from an SNES to like make the song if you don't want to. Also, I do want to just throw out as a side note, I'm like so honored to be on here with both of you. You're both so much more knowledgeable than I am, and I really appreciate being on here. You guys are freaking fantastic. This community is fantastic. This is just such a great place to be. So if this is your first time dropping in, to like stick around. There is awesome things happening here.
There is. And if you are from Bristol or New York or Barcelona or the internet, all places equally can come and see us. We have live shows coming up. Check out ilbc.tv. That's our website if you want to know more about what we're all about. We also have a TikTok, Instagram, ilbc_TV. We post a lot of videos, music tech stuff. We are a project co-founded by myself and Matt Black from Cold Cut, aka co-founder of Ninja Tune Music. Really, really awesome inspiration. He has believed in this project and building a community. So thank you all for being a part of it, because we definitely couldn't do any of this without him. Moving, we got a few left. Next up, we have Outplayed. Any comments on that, Nathaniel?
Just a second. It's just a basic concept trying to get up with the future bounce scene. Smiley face.
Ooh, okay. All right, that was a little fun bop. I liked the idea behind that. I do think that the sound design could be refined a little bit more, and sometimes it's as simple as like putting envelopes on things, putting like filter envelopes, putting effect envelopes, just changing up the timbres. As other people said, the kick is too quiet, so I would definitely bring that out because the kick is very, very important. And I think that just keep working on it, just keep cleaning it up and playing around with it. Natty, what did you think of that?
I mean, when it's done, it's going to be really, really fun. I mean, you can sort of already feel the energy, even if it's not finished and kind of rough on the mix down side. I think the challenge with this is how do you evolve what is effectively a very simple melodic idea? It's got the and that's kind of it, and it just sort of repeats itself over and over again. But obviously, if you want to have the rest of the track, I mean, you can't really get away with that without people getting immediately bored. So I mean, your challenge here is whether you're going to have to find a way to sort of add more call and response later, so you get a little bit doon, and then something else happening. Or perhaps finding a way to invert the melody a bit, give us a different atmosphere, just change up the tone rather than trying to continue doing the same thing over and over again. Because those kind of your two directions with this. So pick one or both, experiment, just you can create as many project files or forks as a file as you want, and see what happens. Because, that's your challenge, is keeping our interest for another couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Stasis, have you ever tried to make a track that relies on a super sort of simple motif like this?
Yeah, I think there's some really easy things you can do to switch it up by taking like one element in that track and then pasting it by itself somewhere else in the song that's not, or pasting it where it's like a blank canvas and trying to build something else around that. And doing that like 2 or 3 times, I think you'll find some other interesting ways to create more transition and movement in the song. Also, the synth, I think a year ago me would have said that synth is too harsh. And I think that it's not too harsh now, but it came in very abruptly. And so what I would have done there is had the synth before it first came in, and then put an EQ on that synth and put a low pass and automate it up like at the very end, so that it didn't come into just like this bum, 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 like it just didn't come out of nowhere. It kind of or something like that, where you can have that kind of feeling like, I know what's about to come, instead of like your ears just being like, whoa, that was kind of out of nowhere. But I really liked it.
Crescendo.
Yeah, a lot of songs do that. If you listen to that's going on all the time, especially with vocals. People reverb a vocal and then have that I don't want to, like, that's really, really common.
Natty, I think you should get closer to your mic. Your volume is a little bit lower.
Sorry.
Come closer.
Come closer.
That's way better. Way better and clearer. I don't have to hear your room anymore.
How are you going to look people in the eye and stroke their hair if you're not close to the mic?
Oh God, I hate you both. I mean, well, I did tell you my opinion about this one already. So, I've run out of opinion. I'm sorry. The opinion meter is dry for this song. Trying to make
my mic is muted.
music.
Sorry. We need the muted emoji stat. All right. So, anyways, it doesn't matter. We have salts next.
Trying to make gaming music. Hope you like it.
Gaming.
And feedback would be appreciated.
Okay. Well, that is what we do on this show, and sometimes we unmute our mics. gonna let you jump in on this one.
I don't understand what. I mean, where are you? I mean, this is definitely sampled from somewhere, the orchestral bits, and I'm not really sure where they tie into this bit either. And a lot of people are saying it sounds similar to a Fat Rats tune or something. I don't know. I mean, I've listened to much of the Fat Rats catalog, so I'm not very familiar with that. But I'm not sure this works as a concept at this point. The two parts are kind of too disparate and disconnected. It's like I don't know, a really meme mashup kind of thing, and I don't know how to actually give good feedback beyond I don't think it works. I'm sorry.
Stasis, what do you think?
Well, if it is a portfolio piece to try and get a job as a video game soundtrack person, then it is really good. I think that is spot on. If it's for anything else, I think it's way too chaotic. I am curious. I'm really curious if it is actually samples pulled from other things or not. I do think that there was a lot of really well done mixing and like sound design in it. So if it was your stuff, then like props. It sounded great. I wouldn't really change anything.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that it was a bit jarring, but I also agree that, yeah, if it's a portfolio piece, that's an impressive contrast, and it's a nice, like, segue between two pieces. So as a showcase, it's good. But, yeah, I might develop each idea individually, separately, because, yeah, the score part of it is really cool. And if it's all original stuff, it's even cooler. And I would also, like, I don't know. I guess it does just sound good as it is gaming music, but I would maybe experiment with some different orchestral libraries and just play around, because you have some great ideas. I think you could really blow them up with varying your samples a bit, having more articulations. Like, I think it could sound epic if you did that. Yeah.
I was just trying to listen to a little bit of Monody, because somebody had mentioned that Monody is what the song is sampled from. It doesn't sound the same. It sounds very similar. It doesn't sound the same to me. So I don't think it's a direct rip from it.
Cool.
That's
Well,
good, at least.
yeah. I mean, I enjoyed that. That was unique, and as always, like, I love the variety of music that we have here. It's never the same, and it's never all EDM, which is great because I get so bored of that. I love the classical. I love the experimentation. So next up, we have Blank Drop. Are they looking for any particular feedback?
Just a second. Bloop. It was looking for tips on mixing, trying to get a clearer and more professional mix. I've been producing on Ableton for less than a year, so I'm still relatively new to this.
All right. Let's check it out. This song wants to be two-step garage so bad, like so bad that it's like almost teasing me with that vocal, with that bass line. It's like it like really wants to be that like
garage.
Right? It wants to go there. So I would suggest get like a pop-in rim shot, get some like classic UK garage drums, like have a section where that rides out, and because that like burial-esque vocal, that dreamy stuff, oh my gosh, I want it so bad, please give it to me. And that's a good position to have your audience in, right? Like make them want it, but at least give it to us at the end, please. That's my request. I really like your idea. I think it has a lot of like soul to it, and it's very like clean. It's not super complicated, but it really like grabs at the feels, which is really good. I love that. I think just, yeah, evolving it a little bit more. There's some mixing issues, I think, in the mid-range. There's a little bit of clashing resonance, and it could be, again, EQing reverbs. This style has a lot of reverbs in it, and if you don't clean them up and be careful, you might get some mid-range resonance, which is sort of like I was hearing a little bit of like, could be clutter, could be some phasing, it could just be like, yeah, imbalance in the middle of the mix, because I think that it's tough because you want it to be kind of lo-fi-ish, but you have to still be clean about it, you know. But I love it, and I want to hear it like just go into two-step at one point, and then yeah, maybe even a little more points where it pulls into just like silence and then deep bass and percussion spotlight for a few bars, something like that. Stasis, what do you think of that?
I also feel like it could have used some different segments or like song composition stuff that we were talking about earlier, of like have a you can do a verse and a chorus and a breakdown in EDM without any vocals, you know, so like think about that as you're building the song to make it interesting throughout and have more variety and movement within the song, because that's going to keep somebody past like that's a really cool vibe. Like 30 seconds later, are they still into the vibe, or what are they doing now? Because I think a lot of it, I like to make music really selfishly for me, if I like it, but I have to struggle really hard with like making music for the listener, because that's who I'm also making it for. I also felt like there were some transitions that could have been worked on a little bit better, that have more reverse sounds, like swells, cymbals, crashes, things like that, and impacts to make it so that you can kind of things to get those transitions, to let people know that they're coming. Ear candy, right? They just add some of those elements in to create continuity within your song.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, they said in the chat that their biggest inspirations are Burial and Fortet. I mean, I'm not too familiar with their discographies either, but I mean, I'm sure they've got songs where, I mean, I feel like someone would benefit from it too, where you just sort of let the bass kind of carry everything. Because right now you're very reliant on your percussion, and it's very nice percussion. But I mean, this would probably answer Shanice's comment of maybe adding a little bit more variety, where you sort of just go deeper and a little bit more slightly wobbly in places, and just sort of let the bass vibe us into the next section. And then you can reintroduce either the same percussion again in a different way, or introduce more different sounds to go into the garage direction that Isha's wanting there.
Yes.
You know, that was... Yes. All right. I mean, I feel like there's an audience demand here for some garage.
Audience of one. Audience of one.
I mean, Shalidi was saying the same thing. So it's an audience of at least two.
Yes. All right. Sweet. We're getting silly clock. Okay, we only got a couple left. We got one more from the queue, and then we got a little special closer track. So let's check out Luma D. Did they have any specific feedback?
Are the mix and are the dynamics between sections too much?
All right, dynamics. Natty. Well,
You're gonna hate me for this, but my brain immediately during that sort of funkier, cyberpunky section immediately connected it with the Macarena.
With the what?
the Macarena.
Macarena!
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry I've ruined the song now for everybody. It's exactly the same rhythmic progression and it's in the same key too, I think. Or
It's a
the
very
relative
high-tech
key anyway.
Macarena.
Industrial Macarena.
Industrial Macarena.
I'm so sorry.
something Macarena. I love that. Yeah, I freaking love this track. I loved it.
I mean, I like these bits more than the intro. At this point, I mean, people were trying to figure out what the beats in the intro meant, and yeah, they sort of had Morse code vibes. But I felt like you could have linked the layers up a bit more, because right now they sort of only ever came in sync during the every 8 bars, or was it every 4? But either way, like it kind of just looped, but they weren't really connected loops.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool energy, but I want more with the sound design. I think that what this needs are like multi effects. Like for instance, have y'all tried Rift? Rift is a really great like bipolar distortion filter, but it's also got other effects built into it like delays, so you can make these like distortion delay chains. I feel like that would give you some dimension and textural variation if you automated something like that. What do you think, Stasis?
I think that's spot on. I think okay, so there's like 3 reference tracks that I thought of, and one of them, Luma, I think you're gonna know already. The Hellmark from the Command and Conquer original soundtrack is a great track to look at.
Natty, you ruined this for me.
I'm so sorry.
Macarena. Oh my gosh. I love that the lyrics for Macarena are "Give to your body joy, Macarena." Dale a tu cuerpo alegría, Macarena.
You speak Spanish?
Yeah, sí, un poquito. No, I lived in Chile for a couple years, so I hablo. So sorry, I'm having such a hard time with the music playing in the background and talking. My ADHD is kicking in hardcore.
All right.
I'm quiet again?
No, you're not. I just turned you back up. Okay, you're fine.
Okay, so the intro, one of my favorite Morse code songs, and it's not an EDM song at all, but one of my favorite songs in Morse code is YYZ by Rush. Go and listen to that and get that vibe. I think of that dun 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 dun. Like they create this awesome pattern out of that. And if you are gonna go with, I think a arrhythmic kind of weird pattern thing, then like it's got to have a rhythmic quality as it repeats, and I felt like that intro did not. So that, oh, there you go. Yeah, so like I would try to marry what you did in the intro. I wouldn't get rid of the intro. I would try to marry what you did in the intro with how rhythmic YYZ is with being arrhythmic. And the third song that I would recommend as a reference is I Do Coke by Feed Me. That like it's like the same tempo, and it's very like boom boom ch, boom ch. It's like it's got like that driving force that I think the song could use a little bit more. So but yeah, I really like the vibe of that song. It's like right in my alley. I could have like driven and gone to play some paintball like listening to that, so it's great.
Nice.
I'm glad that you don't find the Macarena an insult.
I think that feedback rules, honestly. Like if I were to be reminded of a hit song, like why not? Why the hell not? Thank you everybody for your amazing feedback. You are just as like your opinions are amazing. We learn so much from each other, and I love that. We have a great community. Thank you so much, Stasis. We got a closing track from the homie Chase Dobson. I'm a big fan of Chase's work. Apparently, this track is going to be the follow-up to the Chase Dobson downtempo debut release, or sorry, the B-side, the first single, Young Heavy Souls record with Mux. All right, let's check it out. And this is going to be our last track for the night. Thank you, everyone. And just so you know, we do this every week at 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And we do it for about 3 hours. Tonight it's been 3.5, so we do it all the time. And please tune in. Nathaniel, did you have something to say?
Next week, I'm going to be the one hosting, and if any of you kind people want to join me, hit me up in Discord DMs or on Twitter, and I can set you up a link, and we can get you on camera, and you can come talk with us. Maybe we'll run it like a telephone call and have everyone just pitch in. I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah,
I want to be mushy one more time and say thank you to both of you for creating this awesome community. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you again for having me on.
Thank you. Anyone on Twitch who's not in our Discord, we also run the EDM production Discord. It's actually also the electronic music production and performance. So don't be scared off. Every genre is welcome. Acoustic, Disney, whatever you want to make. So join us in there too. Chase, excited to hear everybody enjoy the last track of the night. closer. What did y'all think? I'll let you go first, Stasis, our wonderful guest. I know that Stasis is on delay, but he'll come back and say that he's on delay. All right. Natty can go then while we wait for him. Wait. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I just figured out where it was in the stream. That was my bad. Go on. Sorry. Stasis, start again.
Okay. So I wouldn't change a damn thing. That was so good. That was like, oh man, I just was listening to Miles Davis, Bitches Brew the other day with my cousin, and holy cow, like that evoked some strong, just chill out vibes. I freaking loved it. It's mixed superbly well. Had like the Random Access Memories album vibes to me of just like really well done percussion, really well done song progression. So I'd totally playlist that all day.
Me too. It was really, really nice vibe. I got super swept away in your soundscapes and the classic sounds, the dreaminess, and definitely like the Tycho vibes. I love that kind of stuff. It's very like soundtracky in the best way. Like you just start to picture images. Wonderful stuff, Chase. Really loved it. Natty. You're muted, not on, I don't think you're muted on my side anymore. Wait, you are. Hold on. Now try.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
We just wanted some more Natty ASMR.
Yes.
Oh, now he's muted again. No.
That's not me. Now it's him. He's not muted on my side at all. Natty,
he must be saying really good things, though.
He was there. Y'all heard him. He was there, and then he disappeared. So I didn't touch anything. Natty, we lost him. We really lost him. I don't know why. Natty, you're unmuted in every single spot. Aw, I guess type your feedback. But Natty always sings goodnight with me. I don't want to lose you, Natty. Oh well.
We can't hear you.
We need to log off anyways. It's been a long stream. Thanks for sticking with us the whole time. You're amazing. Wait, now he can't hear me? Well, that is
I can still hear you.
I can still hear me, and the stream can still hear me. All right, we love you. We're going to go. Thank you so much, Stasis Stigma. Do you have any last words tonight for everybody?
Can I do a shameless plug? Is that allowed?
Of course.
All right. Well, I put out a concept album for you guys that heard that I do storytelling. It's called Spatter, SPATR. It's on SoundCloud and YouTube and all the things.
Post the links.
If you want, well, I could post a link or two in the chat. But I really just love the community. I'm so grateful to be here, and this is just awesome what you guys do. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, there he is. Do you have anything that you want to say?
Yeah, Voice Meter decided to reboot itself, so that was clever.
No.
But
well,
I don't know why either.
It's been a great night. Thanks to everyone who submitted. Don't forget, we got ILBC in Bristol live challenge coming up July 6th. If you're in the area, get tickets. ILBC.tv is our website. ILBC_TV on socials to find out more about the project. And we hope to see you back next week at the same time. We are Feedback and Friends. Thank you to Stasis Stigma and Nathaniel Wyvern. And we are going to sing you good night.